All right, we're back, everybody. We're back. We have returned after a 3-year hiatus or
Yeah,
3 week. I don't know, something like
yeah,
that.
it could have been one or the other. But we're back. If you're listening to this and you've listened to the old podcasts, you will hear a difference in the audio quality of this podcast that may or may not continue moving forward.
Yeah. We just went ahead and um, you know, became became very wealthy and bought a bunch of like $200,000
Audio
equipment.
equipment. Yeah.
Yeah, we rented out an entire studio space, and now we just live in the studio and do nothing but podcast and share a slice of it with you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have
The other
returned.
the other slice of this, the like we're really only putting out like what 20% of what we actually record. The other 80% is behind a paywall in our PayPal.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pay us. You're going to have to go to paypal.com/filmtangents.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to pay us $1,000 to help us pay for the audio equipment that we invested all this money in. That way you can have access to our 24/7 recordings that Jake and I are constantly doing.
That's right. That's right, folks. So go ahead and sign up um, and escape the Matrix with us.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me, Edward. Have you heard of a
Mm.
gentleman named Andrew Tate?
Yes, the fellow that, from my understanding, like I've not been following up with that story, but from my understanding, got into it with Greta Thunberg on Twitter,
Yeah.
and the authorities in Romania knew that he was there, and then they got him.
Yeah.
From what I understand, he's like arrested on like sex trafficking charges.
Right. And are you
Yeah,
familiar with like any of his content on?
not at all. Like,
Oh, really?
like
Have you seen any clips of him?
I've seen like random clips, and it's interesting because like I had not realized. I don't know who the guy was. I just thought that he was like one of those. I thought he was literally just like a bold um, guru. Like I thought that he was just one of those guys, like one of those like financial or like I'm gonna teach you how to live like
Yeah,
gurus.
he
Which
is.
to me, it's like like I'm not like and you know this about me. Like I'm not one for
Yeah.
any of that like stuff. Like any of that. Like to me, all that stuff's like a joke. You
Yeah.
know.
It's a massive
But I
scam.
Yeah, but I would see like sometimes I would really only see this um randomly. I would just see like some like 10-second thing, but with that bald dude being like, "This is why I wear tank tops."
Yeah.
Like he
This is
would
why I wear
always like
tank tops, because when I walk in a room and people see my muscles popping out.
yeah. That's literally my experience with him where it would just be like it would just be like literally like a video like a video like if it was shot like on an iPhone like a like symmetrical thing
Yeah.
um and it would just be him like in front of a mic and he would always just open up with like some outlandish statement
Yeah.
obviously just for the sake of like making you stop and be like wait why doesn't this guy like why is it that he why did he cut off his pinky toe? Like
Yeah.
because he would just say some outlandish thing, and it would be like, well,
Yeah.
why did he do that? And but I never even gravitated to it. I never even gravitated to what the answer to the question was. Like that's like my experience with that guy. It would
Yeah.
open a video, and it would randomly just be that dude, and it would be him being like, "Oh, this is why I don't wash my clothes," and I'd be like, "All right, great." Like I don't need to see why you don't wash your clothes. Like this is
Yeah.
enough.
This is why I smoke cigars, because I'm living my life on God mode, right? I'm living
Yeah,
my life on God mode, and cigars actually raise your testosterone. I hate, dude. If it, in case it hasn't already been made clear,
hmm
I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate's like at
yeah,
all, dude. I think he's a fucking pig. And to be honest
yeah.
with you, man, like it's really disturbing. I never realized how fucking easy it is, dude. How fucking easy it is to really
Mhm.
to form a cult.
Yeah.
Like it is the
And
easiest
that's kind of
thing
what happened
in
with
the
that guy, didn't it?
Yeah, it's the easiest thing in the world, dude. Like this guy is being arrested on sex trafficking charges, and his
Yeah.
dude. And I'm not saying, again, at this point it is alleged.
Right.
We have to, we have to speak objectively about it and remain
Mm,
agnostic on it. But it's like
mm,
but at the same time, if you're familiar with him, and I've watched like lawyers' reactions to him and stuff, according to a lot of lawyers on YouTube and big name lawyers, like they talk about this and they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy's just snitching on himself, constantly."
really?
Yeah, they're just like, "This guy's just, this video's completely idiotic. Like he's just
Mm,
snitching on himself." And he's
mm,
all but said that he's a sex trafficker. I mean,
really?
I mean, he's literally said like, "Oh, I take I take women out, I get them to fall in love with me, and then I get them to do, webcam."
XYZ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and dude, he's even talked about it. Just this guy is total scum, like bottom of the barrel, like massive piece of shit. Like he reminds me of
Mm.
that guy that you, me, and James found who was like a while back, who was like an influencer. Do you remember this? And the guy was like friends with Dan Bilzerian.
Oh, it's like some guy that would just like post like videos like humiliating like
Yeah, humiliating women. He was like a
yeah,
playboy kind of. Like he had that one
yeah,
video where he would like, throw a ball and have a girl like go get it, which is just
yeah,
was disgusting. I hated that guy.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like this Andrew Tate's like at that level in my opinion,
yeah,
in my eyes. And to see like just these fanboys, dude, this cult around him, like his product is basically a pyramid scheme, or it is a pyramid
yeah.
scheme. It's not even multi-level marketing. Uh, Apparently, and you're probably familiar with the YouTuber CoffeeZilla, the guy who calls out all the fake scammers and the fake gurus.
I don't think so. I
Well,
don't think so. Unless
he's
unless I've seen like a video by mistake, but I'm not like familiar with the name.
he's fantastic, man. He's like a investigative journalist on YouTube.
Mm,
Um, not affiliated with any company. He's just like a independent, like investigative journalist. And
mm,
he has his whole channel is basically dedicated to going after people like Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, just these
mm.
like
Great. He's a
yeah,
hero for the people.
yeah, dude, like it's actually a really great channel. And
Mm,
he exposes like a lot of shady shit, and he'll like take their programs just so he can like like
yeah.
report on it and tell you like what's in it and stuff.
Yeah, I think I believe that I've seen like at least a video by like this person, but I've not like the name is
Yeah.
just the thing that escaped me like when you mentioned it.
He's great, man. And
Yeah.
he joined like Andrew Tate's like little cult or whatever. And
Mm.
he's talking about all it is like you join, and then it's called like Hustler Versity or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know about that.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and he's like basically what you do is like you join, and then Andrew Tate teaches you how to sell Hustler Versity. This is
Really, it's
so,
just him teaching you how to sell his product.
yeah, this is so stupid. Again, I'm
It's a
gonna
pyramid scheme.
oh, that's like Pyramid Scheme 101.
Yeah,
I just lowered my mic level a little bit. I was going into the red there, but anyway, yeah, it's like Pyramid Scheme 101, man. And
yeah.
but it's not only that. Like, okay, so you know that kind of stuff. Like people with good intentions will fall into those cults and think like, oh, I'm gonna breaking out of society's shackles, and I'm going to become a self-made millionaire by learning all this
Mm,
stuff. And, you know, great. That's fine. That it happens, man. There's all these
right.
horror stories about that. And it's good that CoffeeZilla, people like that are going and exposing and creating awareness of like,
Mm,
this is not something special. This
right.
isn't like, oh, wow, there's like these guys now that teach people how to be millionaires. No, it's just
Mm,
like any other fucking product out there. It's nothing special. There will be something else like it in 5, 10 years that's
yeah.
a fucking scam, and there always has been. But the thing that pisses me off with like Andrew Tate and like his whole following is just, it's like, man, this guy's a fucking dirtbag, dude. I mean, I have a
Yeah.
list of like the worst things he has said here,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna share a couple of them with you.
Yeah.
Um, oh my god. I mean, there's a couple that I can't even say here because they'll get us demonetized or like,
Right.
flagged or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, oh, here's one. So he said, quote, "Why would you be with a woman who's not a virgin anyway? She is used goods secondhand," unquote.
Jeez, man.
Oh, this is a great, I love this
The,
one.
the funny thing is that with that, like with stuff like that, it's like how do you even question it? Like
Yeah,
if a guy like that gets like accused, stuff like if they go like, oh, that guy's been like, like the guy's been like, like sexually assaulting like minors, then it's like, of course he has, you
right.
know. Like this is a man that has like these statements like publicly,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It just boggles my mind. I mean, so he says, let me see. Oh yeah, this is one thing that I do. This is probably the sketchiest thing that he has ever said. And I saw this like the other day when I was watching a video about him like updating his situation, and someone was talking about like he was talking about how he hates the Me Too shit in the U.S. and that's why he lives in Eastern European countries.
It's like, oh, sure, that's why you live. That's why you live there.
And he says, and when I say R word, I'm trusting you guys know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
It has to do with Me Too and non-consensual sex. I just don't want to say that
Right.
word on YouTube. So he
Right.
said, quote, "I'm not an R word, but I like the idea of just being able to do what I want. I like being free."
Sure.
Holy
Whatever that means.
shit, dude.
Yeah.
Um, he's also known for saying that, like when he if he's when a woman's getting married, her father is like passing her, bringing her down the aisle and like passing her off as property. I mean, he's just a pig, dude.
Yeah.
He's talked about how like depression isn't real.
Yeah.
Like so here, this one, yeah, he's like, and it's just so stupid because it's like, dude, yeah, he has like a somewhat of a point when he says like, I think what he means by depression is like when you're in like a slump, and people try
Mhm.
to call that depression and then they go on a pill. If you're, you know, I can somewhat agree with that. If you're like in a slump
Mhm.
in life, you probably shouldn't kind of like label yourself as depressed and like, it's your situation,
Right.
but there are people to say that like depression isn't real. It's a really sweeping statement because there's a lot of
Right.
clinically depressed, people out there that actually have a chemical imbalance in their brain. So yeah, bottom line, dude, I think he's a fucking pig, and
Mhm.
I think I think he did it, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion,
Yeah.
but just looking at the evidence,
Well,
I think he is who he claims to be. I think that's
right.
fair to
Yeah.
assume.
And to
And
be honest, like what that guy claims to be, like you said, is just scumbag. Like he
yeah.
seemingly just claims to be like a real ass, like, scumbag.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and what disturbs me though about it, dude, is like, man, you can brainwash people into anything. Cause, dude, you go on YouTube and you look at like the videos that defend him, and there's just thousands of people in the comments like, wow,
Mhm.
I saw a meme like when he was getting arrested, and it was like, because his whole thing was like when he would sell his program, he was like, "I'm gonna teach you how to escape the Matrix, and I'm
Mhm.
Morpheus." It's like, dude, shut
Yeah.
the fuck up. But then like someone, I saw this like meme that some Tate fanboy put up, and it was like a side by side of like that scene in the Matrix, in like early in the
Mhm.
Matrix when Neo gets
Mhm.
arrested, and then like side by side with Andrew Tate getting arrested. And I'm like,
Mhm.
guys, the only people in a fucking Matrix is you.
Well, but that
You're in Andrew
that
Tate's Matrix. You're the
but
ones who are
that
brainwashed, not everyone else.
that's kind of like the depressing thing about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because like that's like what brings me down when I think about stuff like that. You know, like how far people go to justify something.
Yeah.
Like is because it's just like the human like unwillingness to recognize like wrong and wrongdoing, just being able to like, be like, oh man, I guess I've been like, excuse me, to recognize that just to be able to look at that and be like, oh man, I guess I've been like fooled by this guy, and that in looking at myself in the mirror, having like been a fan of this guy's content, who is clearly like a misogynist
Yeah.
and clearly somebody who most likely has committed like crimes against humanity,
Yeah.
it's just like, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and acknowledge that it was like you got fooled by that,
Yeah. And
and
people
that
don't
the
want to
only
do it.
progress. Yeah, people don't want to do it. People don't want to do it. They'll rather just be like, no, I'm gonna justify this for as long as possible. And even if they find like irrefutable evidence against this guy, these people will still defend him. Like this is like a good, I guess, like transition into Tory Lane's being in jail. You know about that, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. A
Yeah,
little
Tory
bit,
Lanez is in
but
jail
you
because it,
might know a little bit more about the details on that.
yeah, no, he's in jail because it was proven without a shadow of a doubt that he did shoot that woman. You know, he shot her, and by that woman I mean like the rapper
Megan the
Megan Thee
Stallion.
Stallion.
Yeah, yeah.
And he shot her, and then he went to jail. But the funny thing about it is that all throughout that process, like all throughout like the legal process, you just had people defending like all the shenanigans he was doing. Like you just had like all his fans just like bandwagoning.
Yeah.
And even now that he's arrested and in jail and he's been, he got served those criminal charges, there's people who still defend him.
Yeah, it's the same thing with
And
Young Thug.
yeah.
I mean, the thing,
And-
because with like it's the same thing with Young Thug. Like, I'm just like I had this similar experience with Young Thug
Mhm,
fans where I'm looking at them. People are like, oh, free Young Thug, blah blah blah, and you
mhm,
go and see like what he's being accused of having done, like ordering
mhm,
the hits of like
mhm.
20 people, and it's like
Right,
I understand that you like the guy, but
right,
if he really did that, then I'm not going to be wearing a Free Thug
right,
shirt. I'm
right.
sorry. I'll still
Well, but
listen to his music, but
that's the thing, isn't it? Where it's like, are we really gonna be here like excusing, like, but it's like part of like this like culture, it like propagates itself, this idea, of like freeing these people who are committing like crimes and atrocities just because of where they stand,
yeah,
or because of like an idea, that is like misguided, like an idea of like, I'm not gonna get too much into that, but like an idea of some kind of like, you know, um, corporations per se of being like, oh, this, that, and thing, that we're talking about, people of color,
yeah,
um, it's like it really just kind of like, it really just kind of, it's like this cycle. Because I'm thinking about like, Drake, which is like the biggest artist in the world, or the biggest male artist in the world. Like one of his like most popular songs recently is, he has a line where he just says like free, Young Thug. And in the music video, they have like that free, free him and like free YSL, like the people of that label.
yeah,
And I saw that and I was like, what's the point? Like, because like you're saying, it just kind of feels like it's like this trickle down thing where it's like, not only are the fans doing it, but people who should know better are doing it.
yeah,
People who should know better, are like also being like, oh, free this guy who clearly, because everybody's just kind of like piling it on him and taking like pleas and stuff. It's like the guy clearly did all these things. He clearly paid for all these things. Like it's really coming down to the fact that he really did all those things that he's being accused of doing.
yeah,
It's like we can't be out here saying free that guy.
yeah,
And the same thing comes down because the same thing is true about like somebody like Kanye, where it's just like like nobody needs to be making excuses for that guy. The guy's a horrible person, like for obviously for reasons different than Young Thug, which involve like killing people. But Kanye's a horrible person in his own way, and it's just like we
Yeah.
can we really just like can we just stop defending like all these literal like criminals and people who've like made the lives of other people like horrible or killed other people, or made other people's lives unlivable. It's
Yeah.
like if they've done those things, then they need to, serve the sentence for those crimes,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it and it's like
including Justin Roiland.
yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Well, and before we get on that topic, like I just wanted to say too, like I feel like we just like assholes in America. Like there's this culture of
Mm,
like loving assholes now that I'm just
mm,
I don't know, man. I'm not trying to, listen. I like an anti-hero as much as the next
right.
guy like in fiction and stuff, but man, I just feel like we like assholes, dude. I don't know how else to say it. Like, Trump got elected.
Yeah.
Um, we're saying free thug, free, here's the thing. Like, I'd be saying free thug if he got like arrested on some like, weed charges or something.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? But, when it comes to like murdering people,
Well, but that's the thing, right? Because like everybody likes things until the foot falls, the shoe falls on the other foot,
yeah,
because and like I said, like all of this is like propagated, because it's not just like it's not just like, oh, this the air that we're breathing over here. It's like, no, it's everything, because like from the music, like I said, from like Drake releasing music in which he says like, oh, free this guy, um, to movies and TV shows, or like a TV show like like that movie they did with like Zac Efron, like about that serial killer.
oh yeah, Ted Bundy, yeah,
Yeah, or like that show that they made about that other serial killer with that other guy, like Dahmer or
Dahmer,
whatever.
yeah,
Like it's just like so infused,
yeah,
in the culture. Like the people, like I said, like the people who should know better, people who are making things, making content, making like quote unquote art, are the people who are like the ones guilty of just kind of like inserting this idea in people's brains here of like, oh, let's have appreciation for these things, let's make these people famous,
yeah,
um better or worse, like it just doesn't, it doesn't come together. And something like I feel like the only way that these things can kind of start to see, you know, um, some kind of like different like awareness of it in the culture is if people themselves just kind of try to be aware of it and say like, oh, my fault, like me culpa, like I like for instance, a show like Breaking Bad is guilty of that, right? It's like
yeah,
superbly guilty of just kind of like creating this like fantasy where you just root for this guy whom by like season 3 is not it's not somebody anybody should be rooting for,
yeah.
um like I mean that character is a real piece of shit, but somehow people come out of that being like, oh Walt, oh,
Skylar's a
you really did it, and Skylar's a real like asshole, and she's not supporting Walt. It's like, no, like that was the fault of the writing. Like they messed up.
Well,
But
the
the
creator said that. Well, Vince even said like he was surprised and kind of saddened by like people's reaction
and
to
that's what I'm
Skylar.
saying. Like that's what I'm saying because I think the only way that we kind of circumvent these things is if you as a person who's responsible for that like step up and say like, hey man, like that didn't really come out the way that I wanted it to. And to me, like Better Call Saul is like him making reparations. Like
Yeah,
that's really how I've kind of come to see Better Call Saul with time. As it just being him trying to be like, like like I'm trying, like this is me trying to do this again and do it right.
yeah,
And if anything, like if long term I may hold a candle to Better Call Saul being kind of like the more at least like spiritually like better show is because of that,
yeah, yeah. I could
'Cause
see that.
it seems like the message is there, more centered, you know.
Yeah. But and the thing is with that too is I can't blame like Vince Gilligan really for
Mm,
people interpreting Skylar that way.
right.
Because you know what Kim was in Better Call Saul worked for that show, you know. Um Skylar's character worked for Breaking Bad, you know. It was you know, this guy did this on his own, and then it was suddenly revealed to his wife that, you know,
Mm,
he had been running a drug empire, you know, spoilers. um
mm,
but you know, so they work in their respective shows, those two female
mm,
characters, and I
mm,
just don't think like at the end of the day, I don't think Vince Gilligan really has anything to make up for, because I think it's not his fault that people are idiots and that they, you know,
right.
interpret these things this way. And that's kind of my point with like the Andrew Tate stuff too. Because even if none of this, like, let's just say none of this sex trafficking stuff is happening with Andrew Tate, right? Let's just say he's still Andrew Tate from a year ago, where he's just going around and like, oh, I smoke cigars and you know, I don't let my women sleep on the bed. I make them sleep on the
Right.
floor. You know, just that
Right.
shit. Like, you know, even if he was just regular ass Andrew Tate, I just still I look at it.
Regular.
Yeah, I just look
Yeah.
at that and I'm like, guys, what? I look at his fanboys and I'm like, guys, what the fuck is going on? I
Mm,
understand. Like, look, listen. I'm all for, you know, masculinity, which I kind of actually want to touch on that with regard to movies, because
mm,
Critical Drinker made a really good video the other day on the topic of masculinity in modern film.
mm,
Listen, listen, I like cigars. I like, you know, I do kickboxing, you know, I lift weights. I
mm,
like masculinity, thumbs up, great. I'm not on board with all that like masculinity's toxic and all that shit.
mm,
Masculinity, manliness, thumbs up from me. I think it's,
mm,
you know, it's dope. Good stuff. I think we need more of the, you know, of the good masculinity, of strong
right.
masculinity. I do.
Right.
I understand that, but a guy like Andrew Tate, who, first of all, I actually do challenge the idea. Listen, I'm sure you know Andrew Tate. He was a kickboxer for a while, and he was a
Mm,
champion. Listen, that takes balls to do. I'm not gonna like attack the guy's manhood, but I will say this: his try hardness, and you'll know this if you want anyone listening who's watched his videos. His try hardness, saying, "I've got 4 Lamborghinis. I've fucked, I fucked 10 bitches this week. Blah, blah, you know, I've got a mansion in Brazil. I've got a mansion here." It's like that's not fucking. That just makes you look like a little kid. You know, that's
mm,
not that's not masculine to me anyway. Like just
right.
bragging and being all try hard like that. You look like a fucking fool. Um
Right.
I you know, and people who see that as manly, they're fucking fools themselves and they do the same
Right.
shit, you know. Um and just but besides that too, just the scum fucking baggery, dude. It's just like fuck, man. Like I get that there's some decent points. I will concede that like yeah, here and there does you know, a broken clock is right twice a day. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
has Andrew
Right.
Tate said some stuff that's like, oh, that yeah, that's kind of
Right.
profound, or that's kind of cool, you know, like about
Right.
grinding and working hard and hustling. Yeah, of course.
Mm,
Who doesn't? All right. But it's like, guys, this is not the fucking way. Like, can we find someone else who doesn't talk about hitting women? Who there isn't a video of him um there's a video out. You can find this video on the internet of a woman in a locking herself in a room hiding from him, and he's banging on the
mm,
door saying you can't fucking hide in there forever, you know, and just
mm,
terrorizing her. In his defense, he went on camera and defended that video and said, she was with me the other day, said she loved me. Does that sound like a victim? It's like and people are commenting like, yeah, he's right. It's like, guys,
mm,
motherfucker, do you not realize that fucking victims of domestic abuse stick around all the time? They tell their abuser that they love them. Like this is not
right.
anything new. Like, are you
Right.
fucking stupid? You
Right.
know, it's just the fucking
Well,
and dude, it's thousands of people around the world. That's
Right.
what gets me, dude. It's just like this is
Right.
like
Well, but
hundreds of thousands of people.
that's like the issue, isn't it? Where it's like there is, it just gives me pause because you just think to yourself, like, how do you make something like this? And it just really feels like there isn't like a fix. It just feels like this, like, it just feels like you're fighting the ocean. It's like the number of people on this planet, it's like endless. It's endless. We're like over 8 billion people on this planet. And you know, you have people that are having these like thought processes where it just makes you like wonder to yourself, like, like how many people did you just come across on a given day that you walk past them and it's like, oh, this person's a keyboard warrior
Right.
defending some trash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really does give you pause. I don't know, man. And you know what it is too. You know what I thought of? I think, to be honest, someone who's that deep in, who's that much of a cult leader, the
Mm.
only thing that could um turn their fans against them is to be like caught on Chris Hansen's show. Like that
Oh
is
man,
it,
that
dude.
that's a great kind of like stepping stone into one of my points for this week.
Okay, okay.
It
Well,
is.
and what I was just gonna let me
Yeah,
real quick just wrap that point up.
yeah,
Like that's it's like, yeah, absolutely. Anyone who finds himself on Chris Hansen's show, piece of shit, lock him up. Glad we can all at least agree on that. But let's set the
right.
line a little bit further back than that too. Like let you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
let's that's a great line to set. Absolutely, 100%. But
Mm,
let's also look at someone can be less of a piece of shit than that and still be a piece of shit,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
yeah, anyway. But what was
Well,
your segue?
the segue is that I did not know that that show was canceled, and I didn't know why it was canceled.
Oh, I don't think I know either because he started back up, but it's just not the same show. He has
Mm,
new episodes of like a different show now. I've been watching them.
mhm.
They're they're
But
fun.
like that show that he originally had, you know,
And this is Chris
was
Hansen that we're
can
talking about, just for
yeah, we're
anyone
talking about Chris Hansen.
who needs to catch
The
up. Yeah.
show was originally like canceled because seemingly it was too effective at being the show that it was. And by that I
What's that mean?
mean that, well, what I mean is that apparently in the show, one of like the people that they caught was like the mayor of a town.
Oh,
Like something along the line of those lines. It was like a political figure, like you know, and they caught him, and he killed himself.
whoa.
So they like from what I understand, like the guy came in and he saw all those people in his house. Then he
Oh,
ran into his room and shot himself.
whoa. Oh, that's right. That was in that South Park episode
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Cartman pretends he has Tourette's. That was what they. Oh, I didn't realize that was actually real.
Yeah, so that's what happened. Like I didn't know that that's what happened either. That's what happened. And but that's not like the final drop as to why that show got canceled. That happened, and then the guy's sister sued the show.
Oh, wow.
'Cause, she like sued them in saying that they killed him or that they were the cause of his death. And then she got like a settlement from the network, and then the show ended.
Wow.
Think about that. There was a man, a mayor of some town, whom they caught for being, like a person, a child predator.
Yeah.
And that person killed himself. And then that person's sister sued the show
Yeah.
and got a bunch of money from the network. And then the show got canceled.
That's
It
nuts.
just like when I think about that, it's like one of those things that you have to process.
Yeah.
It's like to me one of the worst persons in this whole thing is the dude's sister, because it's like you realize your brother was a huge piece of shit,
Yeah, that's what I was
and
gonna say. I wonder what his sister's thought process was.
probably
Um,
just wanted some money. She probably just went to a lawyer, and they were like, "Oh, you probably could get
right.
some money out of this."
Yeah, yeah. Which, look, I mean, you want to take some money from a big news network, I guess, but you know, it's difficult. I mean, obviously out of principle, she's a piece of shit as well.
Piece of shit. Because also she got that show canceled, and
Yeah,
obviously Chris Hansen was doing pretty good if he was catching all these people.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Because that's the thing. That's why like that work that he and a lot of the other vigilante groups do is really important. Because sometimes we forget that when they show up like that, it's like if these people weren't there, they would
Mhm.
have shown up tomorrow to an actual child's house.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like they were fucking ready, you know what I mean? And they've
Right.
probably done it before too.
Right.
So, yeah, and I'm glad he's back now. And not just for entertainment purposes. Obviously, I'm glad he's back for from an entertainment standpoint, but
Right.
just the fact that people are out there preventing that
Right.
you know, cuz
Right.
I mean, listen, I don't even need to expand on that. We all know it's
Right.
a good cause, obviously, to
Right.
put an end to that shit.
Right. I think there needs to be kind of like more media awareness and like more just like effort from people who create things, to try to, I guess, just to try to depict, kind of like a situation where you know, you just want the bad person in the thing to have their comeuppance instead of
Yeah.
like rooting for people to get away with crimes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why I think our line is just interesting. It's like we draw it like right there or right at like serial killer,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
I think, in my opinion, like child molester, serial killer, they're pretty neck and neck as far as like piece
Right.
of shit goes.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. I had another point that I was going to make about that, but I think I forgot. So
Yeah. But we just kind of did like this whole roulette of just like, people who have been very disappointing lately.
yeah,
Capping it off with, well, somebody like Andrew Tate was always disappointing. I mean, the guy was always a piece of shit. And
yeah,
the best thing that can happen to that guy is that he just gets locked up and nobody has to hear from him again. Um,
yeah.
but
I mean, because the thing is like what his followers are accusing people of is that people just want him to like shut up, basically. Which,
right,
listen, to an extent, like I get it. Like maybe they wouldn't have gone after him so hard if he was a little quieter, you know.
right,
But you know what? Talk shit, get hit, man. You're a
right.
fucking asshole, and you go on live television and talk about how like women are property, and that
Mm.
you'll smack smack a chick if she gets out of line or
Right.
choke her. There's
And
like
and
there's
you
videos
know,
where there was a video that I saw the other day where he was talking about how like he was like reenacting how he would like how some girl was mad at him and then he grabbed her and like started
Mhm.
choking her and then they
Well,
began having
what the
sex and it's just like, dude, you are fucking despicable. Like that's disgusting.
But you know what the funny thing about it is that that's where I agree with, I don't know how people feel about stuff like this, but that's where I agree with the whole idea of like the platforming people. That's where I agree with that because it's like,
Yeah, I
why
was I
would you
was
give
glad when
some
he was deplatformed actually.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing because it's like why would you give somebody like that like a voice? Like why are we entertaining these things? Like, because it's like I watched like a clip from like a Rogan episode where they spoke about him, and Rogan was like talking about saying Rogan was basically saying like this is why he was saying that they shouldn't deplatform the guy so that other people could like clown him, and I'm like yeah sure man sure, but it's like it's like, like you're not really doing anything by that, like other people being able to come into his comments and clowning him. It's like, well, we can just block them. Like, like if you have this like really public like sphere and a platform like Instagram or Twitter or whatever, like
Yeah.
and you have somebody like that, like you're just giving them like endless power, like whatever somebody else could do and like at him and be like, oh, you're a clown. It's like that doesn't achieve anything because people are doing that to that guy anyway, 24/7,
Well, and all
and
that does is,
still,
that's just bad publicity. Good publicity is, it's
right,
all publicity.
right. It's like just so idiotic because it's like if you don't give somebody like this platform to be like Hitler 2.0, the bold version, if you don't
Yeah.
if you don't give somebody a platform to do that, then all they become is like that guy on the streets shouting things that everybody just passes by, and
Yeah.
a couple people stop and go like, yeah, and then they're just a bunch of losers together,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, and I almost suspect, I don't, and maybe you can clear this up, but it seems
Mhm.
like for Joe Rogan to say that, I question. I almost think he might have only seen like the clips where Andrew Tate's sort of saying more vanilla inflammatory
Yeah,
stuff.
because like in that like from the context that I got from that, Joe had as much knowing of that guy as I do, which is
Yeah.
like, I've never really seen a full video of that guy, so I just really know what other people say about him. And and even from what I've seen from him, the very few things I already knew, I was like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit. Like I shouldn't waste my time.
Yeah.
But
But yeah,
obviously, a lot of other people don't have, I guess, keen perception.
yeah. But you absolutely should deplatform a guy who's, talking about strangling women. I mean, I don't even need to
Mhm.
name anything else. There's no comma
Right.
there. I mean, that's like
Right. Exactly.
I was gonna
Yeah.
name some other things, but it's like full stop. If he's
Right.
talking
Exactly.
if he's bragging about how he chokes women, full stop, deplatform him. That's not fucking allowed.
Yeah.
Free speech, like people get confused on this idea of free speech. Like
Right.
free
Right.
speech ends. It's like like free speech ends at at harming another individual. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
free speech, and what I mean by that, because then people are gonna come out and say, "Oh my god, well, someone cussing you out is harming you." No,
Right.
it's fucking not.
Right.
Okay, someone can cuss me out all day. I don't care. What I'm trying to say is, free speech ends when it actually incites violence. I can't go
Right.
into a bar and yell fire. That's not free
Right.
speech. That's illegal, right?
Right.
Unless
Right.
there is a fire. But
Right.
um,
But
I can't go into a bar and say, "Hey, guys, there's there's a homeless guy down there. Let's all get him."
right.
And then everyone goes and beats him up.
Mhm.
I'm at fault there partially. That's
Right.
inciting. So for Andrew Tate to go on and brag about how brag about crimes that he's committing, yeah, fucking deplatform him. Absolutely.
Right.
You got no complaint from me there. Now, if he wasn't talking about that stuff and he was just saying dumb shit about, women being property and, um, women need, him thinking women need to know their place and shit like that,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
don't deplatform him. Let's fucking
Right.
hope for a better fucking world where people don't listen to some, garbage like that.
Right.
But you get my point.
Yeah. But that's where we're at, man. And I guess in the vein of comebacks, right? Of the villainous individual coming back. Vince McMahon is back on the WWE.
Yeah, that's right.
Did
I
you
heard
know
about.
about this?
Yeah, I somewhat heard about this. So he
Yeah.
originally, so what
Step
he
down.
got accused, right, of
Yes.
like he got what, like Me Too'd or whatever.
Yeah, no, like he was and I believe it wasn't just like a plain accusation, it was like actually a fact,
Okay.
that he like assaulted one of the people that worked for his like, business, like WWE. and because of that, he acknowledged it and he stepped down. Like he stepped down. He
And
actually never acknowledged it. He
assaulted
stepped
in
down.
assaulted in what way? Like some like smacked around some guy or what would he do?
No, it was like a female like staff, and it was like some kind of like sexual assault or
Oh,
like
okay.
sexual advance.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure.
yeah, and he stepped down. And and now he's back.
Why? Yeah,
And
like it's like why? you know?
he's not back like in an official way because he's not back like in front of the cameras, but he's back like backstage, like
Right.
handling business.
Right. Well,
And the
apparently
funny thing is,
he's always been like back there, like just behind that
mm,
curtain, like telling
mm.
Michael Cole, like Michael,
Yeah,
say
no, you and I have
Michael.
talked. You and I talked about that.
Yeah, Michael, don't
I
say
think
that
we talked
again.
about that like off the podcast, right? Like last week, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, where he's just in the
Um,
back and he's like, Roman, say that stupid line again.
yeah. So apparently, he's like back to some kind of like managerial like situation, but just not in any like camera see me way. And I saw this on like one of the comments that I saw like about this reacting to this news was somebody saying like, the WWE Fanatic YouTube channel needs to do a redux of their greatest WWE comebacks and add this one to the top of the list.
God. Oh Jesus.
The
Yeah.
greatest returns to WWE.
That's weird, man. I don't know, dude. These powerful people, man, they get away with a lot of shit.
They get away with a lot. There's no holding them down.
Oh God. So I wanted to talk about uh I wanted to mention too because I hinted at it before, but Critical Drinker made a pretty good video recently. It's part of his Why Modern Movies Suck series,
Yeah.
and he was talking about how like modern movies kind of hate men, and
Mm,
and I think that it's been that way for a while now. And I've noticed this for sure, where whether it's movies, TV, commercials, it's always like, you watch the soap commercial, right? And like the idiot dad is like using some stupid
mm,
soap, and then the wife comes in is like, "This is the soap you use, idiot," and like
mm,
just shit like that. But what
mm,
he did say one thing that I almost feel like it's so pervasive that that I just became sort of like nose blind to it in a way,
mm, mm,
where like I just got so used to it. And it's this thing of like all these like male characters these days in movies are just kind of like whiny, just like whiny, like scrawny. And now I
mm,
can't unsee it now. I can't unsee it.
mm,
Like every movie, like I watched this rom-com with it's Julia Roberts
mm.
niece, Emma Roberts.
Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, and this the main character in the main guy in the movie is just like this skinny like dork who's just whiny the whole movie. I mean, the whole movie is just like super reactive, super just like oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like and
Mm,
yeah, there's like a real distaste for like uh like masculinity, like kind of like the movie that we're going to be talking about this week, like that type of
mm.
masculinity. There's like a real like distaste. It's just not popular right now.
Well, the thing, like, I guess my take on it would be this is probably like a counter take from to what you're saying, the one that I have. And I guess my counter take to that take is that from my point of view, I don't care. Like it's one of those things that it's like not it's one of those things that like from where I'm standing or like from where I can see, it's like one of those things that it's like a face,
Yeah,
where it's like eventually like things will kind of even themselves out again,
yeah,
but people are going through this phase and it's kind of warranted. 'Cause it's like reactionary, you know the stuff that's happening, because then like I guess the point that I'm trying to put across is that in the general like sphere, we have a lot of toxic masculinity. Like, like when we talk about, again, like, just to reference the people we've been talking about,
Like Andrew Tate. That's
Tate,
super fucking toxic.
Trump, what's his name, Putin, like we have like so much of this in the modern world that we're living in right now, that I feel like art is just kind of like, people who are making these things are just kind of like being like, okay, enough of that, and they're just not. I feel like people have just so much anger at the idea of it right now because there's no positive element of it that is like really like out, that then we just end up with like, these movies and TV shows that are just kind of trying to put it down,
Yeah. I think they're
that's
both
really.
I think where the nuance comes in too is like they're both sort of they're both like I would say I would say like the character that I just referenced in what the movie's called About Fate, right?
Mm,
And the main character, I don't know, for me personally, I just found that main character really like I thought the movie was okay, but I found that main
mm,
character, it was like I watched it fresh off of watching Critical Drinkers video, so I really
mm,
noticed it like
yeah,
outright. I was like, oh shit, this is exactly what he was talking about. Like
mm,
just in my opinion, that character was very. I wouldn't want my son to act that way. Let's just put it that way. I mean,
mm,
I'd be like, son, you sound like a whiny little bitch. Like you're reacting to everything, you're flinching at everything. Like someone
mm,
escalates with you, and you're escalating tenfold. Like it's just like, oh my god, son, like shut up,
mm,
you know.
mm,
But I think that and Andrew Tate's brand are like almost on equal footing in terms of like just being not what at least I perceive like masculinity to be. You know what I
mm,
mean? Um,
mm,
when I think of like great masculinity, I look at like someone like Keanu Reeves or something.
mm,
Just people like that. People like why am I having trouble coming up with like names off the top of my head right now?
mm,
Oh, Jimmy Stewart, from It's a Wonderful Life. Like that actor.
mm,
Look, I read that actor's biography recently, not a full book or anything, just about him. Um,
mm,
you know, freaking just, man's man, just like all around just like great dude, just
mm,
went into the military. Even as a famous actor, he just went into the military. They denied him to come into the military, and the dude like gained all this weight just so he could be accepted
mm,
into basic training.
mm,
Um, I see like the new like I guess for lack of a better term, like the whole soy boy shit, and then
mm,
the Andrew Tate brand as like almost on equal footing in that way. Because
mm,
someone like Andrew Tate, you watch him and it's just this guy's like very reactionary, very like inflammatory, very like just uppity and fucking like braggy and oh my god, I've got 7 Lambos and on top of that he hit seems to hit women, which is very
mm.
pussy behavior,
Right, right.
obviously. But
But
anyway, it's not my
but
hill to die on. I'm not one of those people that
no,
goes around
because like,
like I don't talk about like the war on men. Like I think you sound like an
right.
idiot when you say that stuff. It's not my
Oh,
hill to
but
die on, but it is just
that
something that I've noticed.
that's like, that's something interesting, because we simultaneously, you know, like I just think there's so much like content, and obviously like these things, they don't exist like in a vacuum per
Yeah.
se. But that's guess the point that I was trying to make is that it's like, obviously there's content that is being made that is just kind of trying to put it down,
Yeah.
and maybe to create male characters that are overemphasizing certain things, right?
Yeah.
And but at the same time, like in the culture that we're living in right now, there's no, shortage of movies like, like the Fast and Furious movies, or like any movie that features like Dwayne the Rock Johnson,
Yeah.
or like the Marvel superhero movies, like what I'm trying to say is that there's also like a lot of like mainstream big movies that have like very masculine characters. Get what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say to you?
I think
Where,
that's fair. That is definitely
where like
fair.
where I'm just trying to, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is like there is just like so much. Sometimes I feel like we're exposed to so much of certain things, and you're absolutely right about that. Where you see these things in their commercials, and you see these things in that show, and you see these things in that movie. Um, but I think what is wrong, or not wrong, but what I think is like not necessarily the right way to maybe see it is like thinking that there's like a war
Yeah.
on masculinity,
No, I agree with that. I agree.
where I think we're just kind of having these cultural shifts and these like and people just kind of dealing with like you know these things that are just so ever present. Trump is so ever present. Hate is so ever present, and it just feels like people are just kind of fed up with these things. But I feel like we'll eventually get back to it. We'll eventually get back to these things.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
and I feel
also,
like that.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add to that and say, like, I think also, again, like the whole idea of like there's a war on men. Again, it's being that in and of itself is being really reactionary and pointing
Right.
the
Right.
finger.
Right.
Maybe it's just that dudes, for whatever reason, are becoming a little more babyish.
Right. Absolutely.
Full stop.
And
And there,
but
it's not like that's happening for no reason in a
right.
vacuum, but it's
Mhm,
happening for I think it's happening for a lot of reasons. I think the
mhm,
some of the media shit is part of it. Just this
mhm,
just these exposures to like when dudes see these movies with these like really reactionary
mhm.
just fast talking, just babyish kind of guys. You know what I mean? Like uh
Yeah.
they see that and they're like, well, I guess that's how guys act, and
Right.
I think it's that. I think a lot of it, dude, is just like, just to kind of put on my doctor hat here, is a lot of it's just like really shitty diets and like not a lot of
Right.
exercise, a lot of stress,
Right. Right.
um
But at the same time, not that we should go too like deep into it, because at the same time, there's just people who
yeah,
are like that.
yeah,
It's like so I think a good way for us to think about it is just kind of like how it's like I think it's negative, and I agree with you. I believe it's negative when it's trying to represent it,
yeah,
when it's trying to kind of like signal itself as just kind of being like this is the way, like this is the new way, you
yeah,
know. I think that's like when you see a movie or you see a show or you see a commercial and it's like blatantly, just saying to people like, "Oh, this is how you should be." It's like that's 100% wrong,
yeah. Well, and like the
Whereas
newer
like
the
if
newer Thor movies too, like they make
mm,
Thor look like an idiot. You know what I mean?
exactly
It's like
like that,
they're like, we're gonna take this like great god, like this,
mm,
really like just muscular, like deep voiced man, and we're gonna make him look stupid. And it's just kind
right?
of like,
And
come on.
and that is when like that's when it's 100% wrong. Where it's like, what are you trying to do? Like, why are you tearing down like these like icons, or why are you tearing down like these like figures, like Rocky or something like that? Like if they made Rocky and then they made him into something like that,
Well,
where it's like
well,
Creed did good because
they did in
what
Creed though.
do you mean?
They did. The Critical Drinker brought that up too, though. He actually brought up Rocky, where they
Mm,
take like they've done this to a few heroes now. Namely, he brought up Luke Skywalker and
Well, yeah, they did
Rocky.
that to Luke Skywalker.
They did it to Rocky too, though. The same thing they
Mm,
did to Luke Skywalker, they did to Rocky in the Creed
mm,
movies. Though
mm.
they made him
But
like this sort of like Eeyore type character,
yeah,
and it's
and
just
and
kind of
and
it is sort of like this taking of like the not to get like too like conspiratorial, but it is sort
mm,
of this archetypal this like subconscious taking the archetypal like heroic like Hercules type figure and like bringing
mm,
him down to like a low like bottom feeder level,
mm.
you know.
And that's like when I mentioned Creed, I guess what I was trying to say is that I believe that like at least in the first movie they did good with the main character, like not with
Yeah.
Rocky, but like with Adonis, like his like the you know like the Apollo Creed's son, like the main character.
Yeah.
That I feel like him as a character in that film is nowhere near anything like that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
you are absolutely right in the sense that they did take Rocky and just made him into this like little old man.
Which we're gonna talk about Sylvester Stallone in a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah. Which we're going to talk about Sylvester Stallone,
Yeah.
but I think I think like the Ubermensch version of this is something that kind of respects the heroes, and kind of like captures like the essence of the hero and the essence of kind of like that, like positive, masculinity of like a hero that even movies like from the fucking 70s weren't doing. Because a lot of these Sylvester Stallone movies are just like over the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're like over the top masculinity. Even if they don't bear into toxicity, they're just like very like narrow, and I feel like I feel like obviously like, and I think that's a good point about you bringing like Stewart, because I think that guy had like a very rounded, kind of like masculinity, and I think there's movies that I believe kind of show like a very rounded version of it,
Yeah.
like a movie like The Pursuit of Happiness, like that Will Smith movie. I think it's like a good example of that, where it's like you see this movie with this guy who is like a single father and he struggles, but he like never flinches and it's always there like a rock, but it's also like but in the movie we also see the character like be emotional and have emotion.
Yeah.
I think that's something that cannot be, you know I think that's like the biggest thing that has hurt, us as like males in our like
Yeah.
ongoingness. It's just like this like shamefulness about like feelings and like showing like
Oh yeah.
emotions, and there's a positive way to do that,
Well, and I agree with that because that's just humanity. I mean,
but
a guy like look, a movie like Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's like,
mm,
it's fun, but that's not even like a real person. You know what I
exactly,
mean
and
in
that's
that
and
movie?
that's what I'm saying, because like I think there's sometimes people like base themselves off of things like that, and
Yeah.
then they themselves end up walking around like a fucking walking and talking cardboard box cartoon character,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, you're just limiting yourself, because it's like, to be a man and to be masculine is to be a whole person with a whole like, range of emotions,
Yeah.
but it's just, but the stuff that we're talking about is just like when you just like make it so reductive and so cartoony, where it's like a cartoon in the other sense. And then people imitate that, and then they end up being a cartoon of what now people are trying to like create. So it's like
Yeah.
so I agree with you 100% in that you said that the Andrew Tate cartoonishness and this new cartoonishness are just as bad.
Yeah. It's the horseshoe. Like they're two ends of a
Yeah,
horseshoe where they're like
yeah. No, it has to be.
connecting.
Yeah, no. Things have to be round. Things have to be balanced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Edward and I know the way. Just follow
Yeah, we know
everything.
the way.
Just
This
do
is
what
like
we
this.
say.
Yeah, do what we say. This is where we are starting our own cult, and we're gonna start our own university.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That you
click
can.
the link below. Click the link below if you want to escape the Matrix. You will escape the Matrix, and I'm Morpheus.
Yeah.
Fuck you,
I
Andrew
I think I
Tate.
think it's always good to like say this, and I think I've said it in a few podcasts before. Now, and obviously, I'm speaking for myself. Nothing that I say, please, whoever is listening to this, don't take anything that I'm saying seriously. We're just, at least for me, I'm just a goof. We're just here trying to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm just here talking to my best friend, and we're recording it, and we might share it. Versions of these things that we don't edit. But this is just what this is.
Yeah, and Edward's talking to his best friend, but I'm not talking to my best friend.
Well, he's not talking to his best friend, but I'm talking to him. I'm talking to a mirror. I'm watching myself as I'm speaking.
So, you know what I really what movie I'm dying to see, dude? and I just haven't gotten a chance to go to the theaters to see it, and it's just not going to be on streaming for a while, I think,
Mhm.
is The Whale, Brendan Fraser. I've
Yeah.
been dying to see this movie, dude. I haven't been able to movies like that are tough to go see in theaters, not because it's
Mhm.
hard to actually go to the theater and buy a ticket, but because it's just hard to like get someone to go watch that with you. It's like is
Right.
the whale is not a good like second date movie. Like, you know
No.
what I mean? I'm not taking some
Yeah.
chick to see the whale with me, you
It's a
know.
bummer. Whatever it is, it's gonna be a bummer. You
Yeah,
know.
and then it's like if I go to the theater with my dad, well, it's kind of like we want to, if my dad and I go to the theater, we kind of want to watch like John Wick, you know.
Yeah, have a fun time. Yeah, you want to just kind of have like a, you just want to you kind of just want to have like a, what do you call it? You want to just kind of leave your mind and just be like, I'm just trying to have a great time. And that's why we're going to the movie theater.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you're in Winston Salem, so
right,
it's like who the fuck am I gonna go see this movie with? Like you
right.
know what I mean? It's like I could go by myself, but it's like I don't know. There's something like lonely and sad about seeing a movie by yourself. I feel like,
Right,
but that might
right.
just be me. But because honestly, there's
Yeah.
nothing fucking wrong with it at all.
No,
but
no,
but
no.
uh, I do want to see that movie. I do want to see it.
Yeah.
Um, like it because here's the thing. I've heard it's really divisive. You know.
Mm,
Um, and what I've been trying to do is really just like I heard a couple like reviews about it, and I've been trying to just stay away from like reviews and opinions about it, and just really remain as agnostic as possible because
mm.
like um I just feel what it's one of those things where it's like
It sounded like you were starting. It sounded like you were starting to do your Andrew Tate impression.
oh yeah well here's the thing about the whale, right? This guy's fat and he's depressed. All right, what depression isn't fucking real. Depression isn't real. This guy Brendan Fraser, he's a fucking clown. He's a fucking chode. Um, yeah, that's like one of his phrases, his terms that he uses, like calls people chodes. Like, dude, shut up. What are you in middle school? Grow the fuck up, man. Um, anyway, yeah, it's like I feel as though I just need to wait and see and watch it for myself, which sounds really obvious, but it holds especially true with Darren Aronofsky for me because it's like, look, I have not seen Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
I love The Wrestler. I hate Mother. I think Black Swan's okay. I've never seen Noah, and I don't plan to. So it's like, man, this
The
guy's
things you said, I subscribe to subscribe almost 100% to all these statements that you
yeah.
said.
Except you've seen Requiem for a Dream, probably, right?
Have yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think of that one?
Um, Look, man, Requiem for a Dream is one of those movies that is like the way people talk about that movie is people say like you watch the movie once and you never watch it again, and
Yeah.
I subscribe to that idea. Like I watched the movie one time and I was like, I'm never watching this movie again. You
Yeah.
know,
Don't you
like
feel
I'm
that way
never.
with all of Darren Aronofsky's movies?
To an extent, like I can like The Wrestler is like I can watch The Wrestler. I have to be in a certain mood. I
Yeah.
have to be in the kind of mood to know that if I watch The Wrestler, it's gonna like bum me out the rest of the day that I watch it.
Yeah.
It's just a bummer. But Requiem for a Dream is different, where that's the kind of movie that you watch and then you just feel really bad.
Yeah.
At least me. And I think other people feel this way because other people share the sentiment of like you only watch a movie one time. Like that movie just makes you feel really bad. The movie makes you feel horrible. You
Yeah.
know, horrible. That movie's like an assault, like on your senses and on your emotions, and then you just feel like down, and it's hard to shake it for a while. But if I was gonna say the movie's good, the movie's good. It's not a bad movie at all by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like a relentless movie.
Yeah.
Um, and like with the whale, it's just the kind of thing that you just don't. Like if somebody said to me like, "Hey, do you want to go see Requiem for a Dream in the theater. Like, no, man, like get out of here. What are you inviting me to do? And it's the same thing with The Whale, where it's just like, it's probably something along those lines, where it's like, oh, geez, like you probably watch that movie and you're just like, I don't want to watch that movie again for a year,
Yeah. I
Yeah.
and I honestly, one thing I will commend Aronofsky on is I'm someone who I think subtlety, like, and I'm someone who talks a lot about subtlety. Um,
Mm.
I think subtlety is great, especially like in horror films. Subtlety's awesome. Like subtlety's wonderful. It can be overrated at times, though. I do think
Mm.
like melodrama can also be an effective tool if you know how to use it. And I
Yeah.
think Aronofsky's like really good at that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think he uses it very sparingly and effectively in The Wrestler. That's why I think The Wrestler, at least out of all the movies that I've seen by him, is his best film because
Mm.
it's not as over the top as a lot of his other films. I feel like it's not quite
Uh,
as melodramatic.
and that's where I agree with you. Like, I agree with you in that I think that's probably his best movie. And just because it just kind of strikes like a balance where it works, like it's not so like overbearingly like,
Yeah,
like oppressive with the emotion,
yeah,
where Requiem for a Dream is, I think he just kind of struck like a good balance with that movie that he never struck again since.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
We'll see with the whale. Obviously, I haven't seen that movie.
yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that whenever that happens.
Mm,
It we'll see. It's been divisive. I've heard from
mm,
some people that that movie broke them and not in a good way. Like it's way
mm,
too like just miserable.
mm.
Um, which I can kind of imagine. Like I mean, apparently I've heard there's a rumor that there's a scene of Brendan Fraser eating pizza with jelly on it. So,
Mm.
you can just kind of imagine like Darren Aronofsky just really going in with the misery. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm gonna have a guy eating pizza with jelly on.
Well,
it.
well,
It's like,
and that
oh
and that's
shit.
that's that's the thing, man. Because it's like at some point, it's just like I'm not the biggest fan of just like mystery consumption of just like watching things where people are just like down and out and down and out and down and out until it becomes a song. Like like that stuff is a little bit like that's the kind of stuff that I always hesitate watching those movies. Just because like again, like I said, like it takes me personally a minute
yeah,
just kind of get out of the funk that the movie just like submerged me into.
yeah.
There's this mystery funk and this misfortune. It's like, oh Jesus, too much.
I could see that. Don't you think? I think James White definitely falls into that category.
Hmm.
I think I've mentioned that film a couple times on this podcast.
The saving grace of a movie like James White is that it's short.
Yeah.
It's such a short movie where it's like, great, thanks, like thank you, But how long is The Whale even? Is that like a 3 hour movie?
That's a good
I'm looking,
question. I'm
I'm
not
looking it
sure
up right now.
the whale running time.
It's 2 hours. It's an hour and 57
Oh, okay.
minutes.
That's not too bad.
Yeah,
That's about what I would have expected, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think
I thought it was gonna be whale sized. I thought it was gonna be a 3 hour movie.
yeah, like I was just gonna say fat. The running time is fat. You guys can tell Edward liked my joke as much as I did. I liked Fraser's acceptance speech. That was really nice.
Oh, he accepted an award for this?
Yeah, yeah. The Critics' Choice Awards, really good speech. Yeah, I would
Good for
recommend
him.
checking that out.
I know that he's kind of like on a comeback trail because it's a sad story with him because he was a victim himself of a sexual assault, I believe,
Yeah, I heard about
and
that.
he reported it, and then he just got like blacklisted.
Yeah, well, he denies that actually, but Well, he actually contradicted himself though, because he denied that in one interview. I think it was on like Sway in the Morning, maybe.
Mhm.
But
Sway, it's Sway, Sway.
yeah, this is
In the
Sway.
morning,
Sway
in the morning.
in the morning. Wake your punk ass up. Um, but then I think he so I think it probably is true, because then he also
Mhm.
said at one point, yeah, after an incident like that, your phone does stop ringing, and you wonder if that was the cause of it, and I think it was.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, he all but said he was blacklisted,
Yeah.
which is really messed up, and it's kind of interesting to see that happened to somebody that um that big in
Mhm.
Hollywood. No pun intended, because we're talking about the whale, but like that that a star of like that, you know those proportions, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
of that magnitude, um getting blacklisted like that, that's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brendan Fraser's awesome, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, he seems like a great guy, and I watch like I think it's like GQ or like Wire or something that do like those YouTube videos where they do like this the career retrospective or something. They go over their biggest movies. I watched that video that he did, and I was like, oh man, this guy's just a great guy. Like he just seems like a really down to earth seems humble.
yeah,
Seems like a humble man. So I root for the man. So just saying that he's been having like success, that's really great.
yeah. Yeah, and the Mummy will always have like a very special place in my heart. I think that's like a one of the all time greats in terms of like action and adventure films.
That's like at the top of my list, of
To
like movies I need to rewatch.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
good, man. I really do think I think it's better than any of the Indiana Jones movies.
Mm.
Um,
And I want to disagree with you. You know that I don't really think those movies are all that good anyway.
yeah, might be a hot take for a lot of people, but shit, The Mummy is a better Indiana Jones movie than Indiana Jones movies. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm with it.
yeah, I think so. I think it took that Stephen Summers took that formula and just ran with it and inserted like a horror character into it and
Mm.
created, because what makes that movie great is it's Indiana Jones versus like a really overpowered villain, because like most of the time all three of those original movies Indiana Jones is facing human villains still,
Mm.
but they took this one. There's like supernatural elements, of course, in the originals, but he's always facing a flesh and blood villain. This was Brendan Fraser versus a god incarnate, you know,
Mm.
like just this super overpowered, like can't touch me villain.
Yeah,
Or when and I said Brendan Fraser, I meant Indiana Jones versus like a super overpowered villain, which
yeah.
was like a great concept. Because they had tried to, some trivia about the Mummy. They had tried to. They had a lot of pitches for that movie that just never came to fruition. That movie was stuck in like development. I don't know if it was long enough to be considered development hell, but
Mm.
it was in development for a number of years. And some horror like greats came. A lot of horror greats came along and tried to pitch that movie, their version of the Mummy, to Universal.
Mm.
Among them was actually Clive Barker, with from Hellraiser.
Mm.
Um, he wanted to do some, sort of like, horror romance type thing, which is
Mm.
interesting because I always thought that the way in the Mummy like regenerates himself is similar to Frank in Hellraiser. So I wonder if that's one of the ideas that like stuck, like the way he
Yeah.
assimilates like other people's flesh to like become whole again. I
Mm.
wonder if that was like an idea that just kind of stuck from Clive Barker's pitch.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know that George Romero also tried, made an attempt, and I want to say John Carpenter did too. Like just these horror
Mm.
legends, and then here came, and none of them like came to fruition, and then here comes Steven Sommers, who I think had only really directed some like cult hit. I forget what it was, some like ocean horror, sci-fi horror film or something.
Mm.
Um, and he came in and was just like, "Hey, how about we do like Indiana Jones versus the Mummy?"
Mhm.
I just made this awesome flick.
And that's how it came about.
Yeah. Yep.
Very
Interesting. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Some interesting trivia there.
I have to like, I just have to have like a fun time with that movie. I have to like make some popcorn,
Oh
and
yeah.
sit down and like watch the Mummy and try to have like a good time.
It's the ultimate popcorn movie.
Yeah.
It's just so fun. Like it does things. It just does everything that modern, like a lot of modern action, fantasy, adventure films try and just fail to do. It just
Mm.
the characters are all just great. The humor is there. I mean, it's hilarious. The stakes are high. The action is intense and not like too
Mm.
over the top, but also over the top enough. It does so much right. It really
Yeah.
does. Try to make sure that when you do watch it, I'm with you because I think that would be fun. That would be
Yeah, that'd be
awesome.
great.
Like we really should do
Yeah,
that next
that'd be
time we
great.
hang out. Maybe we throw that on.
Yeah, yeah, no, that'd be great. As long as you're down to rewatch it, because I know you've watched it like recently.
Um, I think it was actually almost probably like 2 years ago now.
Really, that you rewatched that movie?
Yeah, it was like a couple birthdays ago. I was like, I'm gonna rewatch this. You know, we sat down and I was like, we're gonna watch The Mummy because it's
Yeah,
my birthday.
yeah. I say what goes. This is a good movie, and nobody can disagree with me. It's my birthday.
Yeah, like you all have to like it too.
Everybody's like secretly thinking like, "Oh, this mommy movie sucks, man. How is he comparing this to Indiana Jones?"
Yeah, Indiana
But
Jones is so much better. No.
that being said, and talking about rewatchables, we're talking about watching things. What have you been up to over the past few weeks we haven't recorded?
Yeah, I've actually watched quite a bit, so I'll try to
Mm,
just, I'll kind of breeze by things that I don't really have too much to say about.
mm.
So yeah, since we last spoke, um, one thing I did want to bring up too is I saw. So I don't know if you knew this, but they're coming out with a new Evil Dead movie.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
and
I
that,
know they're coming out with a new Scream movie. I didn't know they were coming out with a new Evil Dead movie.
yeah, and so this is
Making that,
yeah. Say what?
making that movie.
Who's making it?
Huh.
Let me see. Evil. It's called Evil Dead Rise.
Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Lee Cronin.
What is that a guy? Yeah. What's he done? Hole in the Ground. It was a well reviewed 2019 horror film.
The Hole in the Ground.
See, this is how you find like these hidden gems. Is
Whatever they did before they got the big gig.
exactly that's how you
Yeah,
find the hidden gems,
yeah.
man. But
Hole in the Ground.
what's interesting about this one is this is gonna be, I guess, besides Army of Darkness, we won't count that. This is gonna be like the first feature length Evil Dead film that doesn't take place in a cabin in the woods, which is kind of
Yeah.
interesting. The first that's not going to be a remake, basically, because even Evil Dead 2 is just basically a remake of the first one, in a way. And it looks, dude, I watched the trailer for it, and it looks pretty good. And what's
Uh,
interesting about Evil Dead, at least obviously, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, film is subjective, okay?
right.
But but in terms of like the um consensus, there hasn't been a bad Evil Dead film. That's like a horror franchise where every movie's like been good, in terms of
Mhm.
like the general consensus. So it'll be interesting to see if this one can recreate the magic in a new setting. Which seems to be more of like an urban setting. It almost looks like a lot of it takes place in a like a high rise condo or something,
Yeah.
which maybe is why it's called Evil Dead Rise. But
I guess so. Yeah. Otherwise, like, what when I saw the name, I was like, okay, kind of clunky, kind of a clunky name, but all right. Like Evil Dead Rises, that was like that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, it seems like it's not grammatically correct.
Right? It's like Evil Dead Rise. It's like okay, all right.
Well, I guess that's no, I guess that's right. The Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
The
you
They
wouldn't.
Evil Dead.
Yeah, because the original movie is called The Evil Dead,
Okay.
so it's basically saying The Evil Dead Rise. So I guess that's right.
Is this one called The Evil Dead Rise or Evil Dead Rise?
Evil Dead Rise, but it's just Evil Dead is basically like just taking off the.
Yeah.
It's like Evil Dead. Instead of the whale, it's just whale.
Whale. Whale Rise.
Whale.
Okay.
Whale. It's a big
It's a big
show.
yeah.
But yeah, I watched the trailer. It looks pretty scary. Looks pretty creepy. Got to be honest
Right.
with you.
Let's
And
hope for
what's
the best because I am a fan of those movies. I like them.
yeah, I am too. They do gore really well, like in a solid way that's like not too gross, and it's just like carnage, fun carnage. Um, oh, this is interesting. The cinematographer previously served as a cinematographer on several episodes of Ash versus Evil Dead. It's kind of interesting. So he's got experience. Um, so yeah, to go back to what we were talking about before, films that I've watched since we last spoke. I watched the new Timothy Chalamet film, Bones and All.
What was that? How did you like that?
I did not care for it.
Mm.
I just didn't. My sister had read the book. I'm assuming in preparation for the movie because she knew Timothy Chalamet was in it.
Mm.
My sister has a huge crush on Timothy Chalamet,
Yeah.
as you know. And yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. I gave it 2 stars out of 5, 4 out of 10.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. I just didn't really like it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. So that's a movie that obviously, like, as you know, like I really want to watch that thing, mostly because of like Guadagnino like being the director more than anything else. But it
Yeah.
would be interesting. I want to see it and just it would be nice for us to like have a little chat about it on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of folks that we went to like film school with this stuff, it looks like on Letterboxd, like really highly rated that movie. But man, it didn't cut it for me. It doesn't have much of a, I don't know. I just felt like it didn't have much of a plot. Um,
Mm.
just felt very like directionless, like
Mm.
um, you know, sort of like something I might have written like first half of college.
Mm.
Um, just not like a big like plot goal or anything. It just felt very aimless to me,
Mm.
and yeah, I don't know. It just didn't, and it didn't stir me emotionally really either. I
Okay.
Yep, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, you're trying to get all the Oscar movies out, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's what you're
So
trying to do.
yeah, so Everything Everywhere All at Once, I enjoyed. I gave that movie a 7 out of 10. I thought it could have been higher. I thought it was a very deep film, which is not
Mm.
something I say about a lot of movies because I think it's like sort of a term that um sort of the currency's been a little inflated on, saying something's deep. But I do think that the subject matter that this movie was tackling was really profound. Um,
Mm.
I thought, one thing that I thought while I was watching it, like halfway through, I was like, "Holy crap! The editing in this film, it must have been so much work to make this film because it's just like,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's like, it's a little bit almost like Scott Pilgrim versus the World in a way, in some ways, in terms of like just the really like over the topness editing, bam, 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 bam. Like it feels very
Mm.
Edgar Wright
Mm.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I thought the subject matter, like I said, was very profound. I just felt like there were just a few things in that movie that um, felt a little try hard, sort of a little overly melodramatic,
Mm.
and a little bit too much of a little bit too on the nose, and of like really trying to like make sure that I got the point of the film, and I was just
Mm.
kind of like, I got it. No,
Right.
I'm tracking, but you're still
I'm
like,
here. I'm watching.
yeah, like I'm tracking, but you're still
Yeah.
shoving it down my throat, and I'm telling
Right.
you like, yes, I understand the point you're trying to make. So,
Mm.
but yeah, it's enjoyable, definitely worth watching. Um,
Right.
I rewatched Clerks. That's like my absolute. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's my absolute favorite film to watch around this time of the year during January and February, the kind of New Year portion of
Mm.
the year,
Mm.
and post Christmas winter portion of the year. It's a movie that's actually made me, which I never thought I would, sort of enjoy this time of the year. Um, because what the reason so I first Clerks is a movie that it was a few years ago that I first saw it, and it was
Mm.
around, I think it was like early February or something. It was around this time of the year, and it was just I was in sort of a rut. It was like during the pandemic, like heat of the pandemic, and I was just in sort of a rut in life and didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, didn't really know what direction I was headed in, and it was like a quarter life crisis time in my life. And that's what Clerks is about. It's about the quarter life crisis. It's about
Yeah.
not having direction and not being able to, uh, not having the guts to like face change.
Mm.
And I think it's I think it's just incredibly well written. I think Kevin Smith was a genius for making that movie, especially at such a at a young age, like making that film with such like these profound themes in it. Um, and it's now become a New Year tradition for me to watch that movie January, February, because it's a movie about change, and this is the time of year where everybody's thinking about change. They're thinking about New Year's
Right.
resolutions,
Right.
um, and that movie makes you think about your resolutions in not sort of the sort of glib like social media way, but in sort of a really profound way. Like, yeah, let me actually affect like real change in my life,
Yeah.
for the better. Um, so that movie means a lot to me. I would say that movie
Yeah.
means more to me than most movies.
All
Um,
right.
I
That's another one of the movies that I have to check out.
oh man, uh, I'm so excited for you to see eventually see that movie.
Yeah.
Um, I watched Dante's Inferno, an animated epic.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah, I saw. You're like the only person in my Letterbox network who's seen that movie.
I think there's like a handful of movies I think that I've seen that I'm like the only person that has like seen that thing.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gave it looks like a 5 out of 10. I
I think
gave it
so. Yeah.
yeah, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I think I enjoyed it. Obviously just a tad bit more than you did.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think like the Dante's Inferno story. It's a cool story. I'm a big fan of like myths, legends. Um, religious poetry, stuff like that. And I'm writing an epic dark fantasy novel at the moment that partially takes place in hell. So I wanted to
Mm.
just feed a little bit of, and I'm writing. I'm at the portion of the book that solely takes place in hell, and it's sort of the climax of the book. So I wanted to watch something that would sort of maybe feed my inspiration a little bit. And
Mm.
I think I accomplished what I wanted to with that one. Um,
Oh, good.
and that's about all it did for me, though. Uh, you know,
Well,
but it
at
was
least it did that.
yeah. I mean, it was pretty well made. I thought
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah.
Um, and then there were just a couple more things that I watched here. Actually, I closed down my letterbox. Oh, as I mentioned before, I watched About Fate, romantic
Mm.
comedy that just came out. It's actually I suspect it came out a couple weeks ago, probably because it actually takes place on New Year's Eve. Um,
Mm.
yeah, pretty solid. I mean, I think I gave it a 5 out of 10 because there were a couple things about it that bothered me that brought it down a little bit, but I actually did enjoy this movie for the most part.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. The director obviously has seen Serendipity quite a few times, because it is about fate, as the title suggests. And then, lastly, I saw for the first time Pretty Woman.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, thought that was a good movie.
Liked Pretty Woman?
Yeah, I liked it.
Alright.
Have you seen Pretty Woman?
I've not seen Pretty Woman.
Oh, okay.
I always think about that song when I listen to like
Yeah.
the song by I think it's like Albert Brooks, right? Is that the name of the artist? Or
I'm
King?
I'm not entire. No, it's not Albert King. I'm not entirely sure who that
It's
is.
Albert King. Yeah, Albert King has a
Oh, it
song
is,
called Pretty Woman. Yeah.
but I don't think it's
Yeah.
that one.
That's the song. That's the song that always comes. Like when that comes up in my playlist, like "Oh Pretty Woman," like that song. That I always think about that movie that I've never seen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not his version isn't in that movie. But yeah,
Okay.
okay. I need to actually. I like Albert King quite a bit.
Yeah, no, he's great. Yeah, it's on the album "Born Under a Bad Sign."
Yeah, I'm actually yeah. For anyone listening who didn't know, I actually really enjoy blues music, and if you don't are not that familiar with blues music, I highly recommend it because it's
Yeah,
very enjoyable.
great. Yeah.
So yeah, that is what I have been uh, viewing these past few weeks. I'm gonna turn it over to you now, sir.
Well, I, as you know me, or as I am known to do,
Or a
I've seen nothing.
disappointment.
Yeah, it was a disappointment movie-wise. Look, there was a point in time, and Jake knows this. There was a point in time in which I was like watching like a movie a day.
Yeah, we
Like I was
both
watching a
were.
movie. Huh?
Yeah, we both were.
Yeah, like I was
The
watching
good
a
old
movie
days when we had
every
free time.
yeah, every day. Like Jake and I were watching a movie every day. But even before that, like even before we started doing that, like like first year and stuff like that, I was like watching just like a bunch of movies all the time.
Yeah,
But in my post graduation life, I'm not watching that many movies anymore. I watch like a movie every now and then.
yeah.
Um, but I did watch one thing, and I watched a Yu-Gi-Oh movie. Yu-Gi-Oh just being like a thing that I grew up with. Anime like about like cards. It's like a trading card like monster fighting anime that then became like an actual like trading card like game in real life. I watched that movie and I had a nice time. The duels were great, the animation was great, but there was like no story, and it was like way too long. It's like 2 hours. An animated movie about
Oh God.
dueling with cards.
Oh yeah,
So it was like way too long.
dude, this thing is 130 minutes. Oh my God.
What is?
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, I'm looking at
Yeah,
I'm stalking your letterbox as you're talking.
yeah. No, no, it's like way too long, and that's why I gave it a 5 out of 10. I think because I enjoyed it, but I was like, this is ridiculously long.
Yeah,
And like overly complex. Like the plot is like really like convoluted. And I came out of that movie just thinking like all you guys had to do was just come up with an excuse to have the characters dueling a couple times, and that's it. It didn't have to be this complex. It didn't have to be like this like world like ending thing.
yeah.
But the parts that were great. But that was it. And other than that, as I do, I just listened to music.
Now wait a second. I'm seeing something else here. Disclosure.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. That's no, dude. I talked about that.
Oh, did you?
I talked about that in the previous podcast. Yeah, that's when I was
Oh,
talking about like how that guy's not really the lead. You
oh
know.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
No, we talked about disclosure.
I was
But
probably
I listened to
busy.
some music.
I was probably busy worrying about my fucking audio on that one.
Yeah, because it kept going up on that one. I listened to Chief Keef's "Finally Rich."
Oh, okay.
So that I get busy with some Chief Keef, and what I gotta say about this album is, I give this album like a strong 6 to a light 7. I think it's like a solid album.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that restrained my enjoyment from this album. I listened to the deluxe version. Um, that had like Sitgo and Kobe, goddamn bands and don't make no sense, like attached to it at the end.
Yeah. Oh, so you didn't hear the new like updated version with like the lost songs added to it?
I only listened to the deluxe.
That came out like a week or like 2 weeks ago, actually.
Really? No,
He
that.
he added that. Sorry, he added that one. Like one of them. It was like 4 songs or 5. One of them was "Rider" with Wiz Khalifa. Remember that
Hmm,
one? It's like
I
I'm
don't
a
know.
rider. I'm a
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
roller. Yeah, that one. Oh yeah, wait, continue.
I'm looking at his like albums right now because that's like Finally Rich is like his like like album you should listen to. Um, I listened to that deluxe, not the version with like the added lost songs. But I really enjoyed it. Songs, Love Salsa, Hallelujah, No Tomorrow, Hate Being Sober, KK, like all these songs are great.
Hmm.
Um, I don't like, it's not as good as the Kanye version. Like the Kanye version of that song to me, it's like the peak version
Yeah,
of that song.
I agree.
Um, and like when you listen to I Don't Like with Lil Reese, there's no way to get around that. It
Yeah.
just makes me feel like I'm listening to the worst version of this song.
Yeah.
Um, it's like that other version with the Kanye remix. That's like epic.
Yeah, just that
Um,
beginning with Pusha T, like, oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. No, it's too good. Like it's like leagues and bounds ahead of this one. Um, but the only thing that I have on the album, I have two critiques, and that's the reason why I didn't like. Oh, it's an 8 out of 10. It's a great album, and it's like the album is, lack of a better word, mature
Yeah.
and stupid.
Yeah.
Like it's immature and it's stupid. And when I listen to a lot of these songs, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing somebody could ever say. Like,
He was the original like Little Pump.
oh, that's what I was gonna say. Like the stuff he says, it's like Lil Pump level of like stupidity and ignorance.
Yeah.
And there's no way of getting around that. You listen to a song and you're like enjoying it, and then you just kind of hit the brakes, and you're like, like that really bumps. Like you said that, Chief.
Yeah.
So there's that
And he was
element.
like 15 when he recorded
Yeah.
it, to be
No, and
fair.
there's no way, like obviously like me saying this, I have to acknowledge that the guy was like literally a teenager. And that
Yeah.
he's literally saying the stupidest things anybody could ever say.
And what's
And
interesting too is, I mean, the thing about it is when you listen to, because you listen to his newest album, and the
mm,
amount he's matured, like with just
yeah,
his lyricism and his
yeah,
wordplay and
yeah.
his
Swordplay.
overall like musical just talent,
Mm.
is pretty amazing.
No, and
Um,
that's the funny thing because like Fornem just kind of went under the radar a little bit. People didn't really like talk about that album. Like there was no real talk about that album. But if I compare like Finally Rich to 4Nem is like the better album.
yeah, finally,
It's like
Rich.
way the better album.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you know me. Chief Keef is in my like top 5 rappers, just personally,
Mm.
and finally, Rich is probably my least favorite project by him. I was
Yeah.
not like when that first came out. It did not make me a Chief Keef fan. Like I
Yeah.
was just like, this guy's
And
fine, whatever.
that's where I came to this album. That's why I thought it was like a light, like a strong 6, like a light 7, because I was just like, some standout stuff here, but like it's just hard to listen for me, because I've come so far with like this music where I would really just demand a little bit more than just like fun hooks and like production. That's really where I came out of it, and
Yeah,
and being extremely disappointed in the final song, Finally Rich, because it has like a minute long intro.
yeah,
What otherwise is like a great song, you know. And that to me like bothered me so much I was like, why would you do this? Why would you, in the final song of the album that has like a really great like beat, have like this minute long introduction? That's like you ruined this. You ruined this, you know?
Yeah.
And for this song online, like on streaming, there is no version of this song like Lamborghini, you know, where like I found that Lamborghini without that like 2 minute long intro.
Yeah.
That upset me, but whatever. That's Chief Keef. I listened to the album London Calling by The Clash. Rock album, kind of like a punk, like new wave, British rock album. And it is fantastic, Of all the music that I've heard, like all the stuff that I've listened to over the past few weeks, that's the best. And I listened to that album for like a week, you know. I just was listening to that album for a whole week. And this is like the cover of it. You see that?
Yes. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
There's, yeah, so it's London Calling, and it starts with the song London Calling, which is great. Every song, like every song in this album to me was like great. I couldn't really like hate on any of these songs. Like their song Brand New Cadillac, which is like the second song in the album, is kind of the song where I was just kind of like, eh. But London Calling, Jimmy Jazz, Hateful, Rudy Can't Fail, great songs. And that whole week that I was listening to this album, I just kept like, humming or singing the hooks to myself. Um, so I listened to that and London Calling by The Clash, like 9 out of 10. And then I listened to Clipping, which Clipping is like this hip hop, experimental hip hop group that kind of came to form in popularity around the exact same time that Death Grips was. And just as you know, I got huge into Death Grips. I love Death Grips. If it comes to like, if I were to be like, top hip hop groups, Death Grips would be like number one for me.
Yeah.
Over everybody. Over Wu Tang, over any hip hop group. But Clipping came around at the same time, and I really only listened to kind of like their like big songs, like Taking Off and stuff like that. And you've listened to some of their songs, I've put them on before, but I listened to basically all their albums that they've put out over the past few years. So the very least the ones that have made a lot of noise. Listened to the Clipping self-titled album. Listened to Splendor and Mystery, their 2016 album. I listened to There Existed an Addiction to Blood, their 2019 album. Listened to all those three albums, and what I gotta say is that I don't like Clipping that much because Clipping, like their best album, me, is their first album, like the very first one from 2014. That I'm like a 7. Then like Splendor and Mystery is technically like EP, but it's really not. It's like 40 minutes long, so it's an album anyway. But that one's okay. And then like There Exists an Addiction to Blood. It's like almost like unlistenable because of all the glitching and noise in the production. Like there's a song that has just like it just has like TV like static. He's just rapping over the static, but at some point the static is just like overwhelmingly loud on top of his vocals. You can't even listen, like really hear what he's saying. There's a lot of songs like that to where it's just not enjoyable. Like
Mm.
even if it's a concept album and you're delivering the concept, and I can appreciate that, the music itself is not enjoyable. And that's something that I've never been able to say about Death Grips. Regardless of the experimentation on a Death Grips album, regardless of like the craziness and the loudness and the quote unquote unlistenability of some of their songs, I've never fully felt that way. I can enjoy almost all their music. I can enjoy all their albums front to back. Even like the super experimental ones, like Powers That Be. But I can't say the same thing for Clipping. Like I do not see myself really listening to any of these albums. A couple of songs that I can pick out, but thumbs down,
Yeah.
thumbs down for me. Like too
It's a no
much
from
noise.
it's a no from me.
Yeah, no, too much noise, and that's the thing, and I think you can take that like when I say something like when I say that I enjoy Death Grips, you know, And when I'm somebody that, as you know, like has been known to listen to like very experimental or like very noise heavy like music, or when I introduced you to like Black MIDI, that it's not, Black MIDI is not easy listening.
Yeah.
Um, so when I say to you that that clipping album was like literally just like unpleasant, that's what it is. It's like it was really unpleasant for me. At least they're keeping true to their name. That sound was really clipping. It was really noisy. There was a lot of static. So, but all that being said, today I re-listened to "Hell Hath No Fury," the Clips album. So good, so good. That Neptune's Pharrell production. All those songs from that album. Even the dated ones or even the corny ones are great.
Who say
Um,
the artist again?
Clips. You know who it is? It's Pusha T and his brother Malice.
Oh, it's say it one more time. The group
Clips.
Cl-
Clipse.
Clips. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I have actually never listened to this group.
I've
Obviously, I've
shown you this album cover before, the one with like them like in a
you
like with
have.
Jesus in
That's
the car.
right.
Yeah.
That's
For
right.
Lord willing. Yeah.
Oh, and he features it. It looks like he features his brother on his new album too, which I
Mm-hmm.
listened to quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to check. And
Oh, you
you
gotta you gotta
listen.
check out
Go ahead.
you gotta check out Clips. Like
Yeah, I do.
these albums are classics. They're like classics. They're just head boppers. Just great lyricism. Like both Pusha T and his brother are as good as each other, and they sound
Really?
like almost the exact same. So it
Wow.
almost just sounds like it's Pusha T tagging Pusha T in, who sounds slightly different from himself.
Wow. Okay.
Dude, the quality is just great. And again, it's like the Neptunes. Pharrell produced all those albums. And Lord Willing and Hell Hath No Fury, they're great, great albums. I re-listened to Hell Hath No Fury today. And on my rides to and from work, I was just like having a great time
Oh man.
listening to these songs.
Yeah, I'm always
Um,
looking for good like rap to bump in the car, man. I mean,
mm,
and that's like my favorite. That's like my favorite era of rap, like the
mm,
2000s and like the late
mm,
90s, like 3 6 Mafia, Bone Thugs.
mm.
That's more late 90s, but like Jada Kiss, like I love that
Yeah.
era.
No,
So
this
yeah,
this
I just added that album to my library here. I'm definitely gonna check
yeah,
that
no, I'm
out.
surprised you just added that because I bumped a lot of those songs for you. There's a song in the last song of the album called Nightmares, which is great with Pharrell.
Okay.
And it's just like, it just has this hook of just them going like, oh, I'm having, it's like, I'm having nightmares. And then the guys just come in and out like rapping. It's great. So if anything should stand out from the albums that I listened to, is that the album London Calling by The Clash, Hell Has No Fury by Clips are classics and fantastic albums. Everything else, forget about it. Clipping, forget about it. Really
Gotcha.
Rich, forget about it. Go listen to Foreigner.
Yeah. And what I
Um,
was gonna say about Finally Rich, some alternate universe, in some alternate universe, Chief Keef he stayed like out of trouble and like somehow like listened to the Suits and just kept making Finally Rich albums, and he just wouldn't have been the legend that he is today.
yeah,
Like that's the thing.
absolutely.
It's almost like martyrdom, where it's like, yeah, he sacrificed his mainstream appeal for a while, and then became
Mhm.
this influential just legend by doing
Mhm.
this zany like experimental rap albums.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
but that's it. That's all I've got. That's all I've listened to.
Well, shoot. I guess it's time to get into Cobra. In that case.
I think this is about time that we got into old Sylvester Stallone.
So when I was watching when I was watching this movie and about halfway through, I realized that, you know what? This is just what it is. This is just this plot driven movie. There's
Yeah,
no backstory. There's no
No, there's no
real
backstory.
there's no backstory to this character or like,
Mm,
character wound or anything like that. There's no real reason that these cult guys are going after this
no,
woman.
no, there's no
Like
reason.
none of it.
And
This is just plot. And I
yeah,
started to picture, because Sylvester Stallone wrote the screenplay to this
he
movie.
did. He wrote this. He wrote this script.
And as I watched this movie, this was like something that I would have written when I was like 14, right? Just like this
Mm,
plot movie, right? Just plot,
mm,
and that's it. It's all plot. It's just plot.
mm,
And these characters are just doing it for the plot. And
mm.
and I started to picture Sylvester Stallone like sitting down writing this and just being like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, Adrian. Like,
You know, do you know what the
yeah,
thing is,
that's kind of cool.
man?
These cult guys and like there's machine guns and stuff." Like,
You know what the thing is. Sylvester Stallone is somebody that got away with more than he should have. He got away with more than he should have, just based off of the fact that he wrote the Rocky movie. Like, just based off of that, he got away with way too much. Like,
what do you mean?
just because then people just trusted him. They
Oh
were like,
yeah,
"Yeah, Sylvester, you write the movie.
yeah,
You're the
yeah,
guy. You're the guy who wrote Rocky, right? Oh, so oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I wrote Rocky. So
yeah. I wrote Rocky.
then you write the movie. Like you write the movie, Rocky. Like you write the movie, Sylvester. And with that, it was like it's like a lot of movies that allowed him to do that. That was like the biggest mistake they could have made.
All right, everyone. So you say you want me to write the movie? I'll write the movie. Fine. I don't have
It's a
any
good
problem.
Sylvester Stallone
I don't
impression.
have any problem writing the movie.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
have any
it. Like
problem writing something about these bikers and they're hunting
they
down
gave
this
that
woman.
guy just like they gave that guy just like carte blanche. Just like, oh, just do whatever you want and we'll film it. And this is what this movie is. Like literally, like this movie, he was supposed to star in Beverly Hill Cop or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's like a bit of trivia for this. And he turned this movie down. And he like turned the Beverly Hills Cop down because he wanted them to let him do rewrites on the script. And they were like, "No, Sylvester, we're not letting you."
No, Sylvester.
And so he just said to himself, "Well, I'm gonna make the version of Beverly Hills Cop that I believe this movie should be," and he made Cobra.
Well, the script for Beverly Hills Cop didn't have enough explosions in it.
Yeah, that's how we ended up with this movie. Like he was entitled. He was like, I am entitled to making the version of this movie I believe it should be. And so we ended up with this movie that is literally about Sylvester Stallone doing what Sylvester Stallone believes is cool.
Yeah.
What he believes sounds cool. Like when you say that you would have read this at 14, that's like the most apt description. It's like somebody's idea of cool,
Yeah.
Somebody's like shallow, naive, and like immature idea of what cool is. And then we ended up with this movie.
It's like I'm watching it and I'm just like, this is the whole time I'm like, what is he, a cop? I mean, what the fuck is he? What he's a one man SWAT team? They're like, call in Cobra,
They
call
call
in
him
Cobra unit, and it's like this guy.
in.
It's like,
And even then, he's like a buffoon because he goes in like when they call him, and he arrives in that car like the most like it's like the most useless car. It's like this like low to the ground like old Mercury that he had, and that was his car, by the way. That was his car. The car that Sylvester Stallone bought because he was like, "This is a cool car for me, Sylvester Stallone." And the movie that Sylvester Stallone, am writing, I'm gonna put that car in that movie.
well, yeah, because it was a cool car.
And he made the production make like buy that car. Like he not only is his car featured in it, but then for the stunts, like actual money, budget money was used to buy several copies of Stallone's car so that he could crash it and just destroy it in car chase scenes. And that car's license plate says awesome at the back.
Oh my god.
That's the license plate of the car. Like when they show it in the movie, it just says awesome. And I'm like, when that happened, I was like, I know exactly what I'm watching.
Wait,
I'm
I
watching
didn't
a
even.
man
I
say,
don't even think I noticed that.
it says awesome 50, you know.
Oh my god.
I was
Oh
like, I'm watching a man's fantasy right now.
wow. Yeah. 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 I mean, this was like in sort of kind of a meta way. It was sort of, like if you want to throw on something like Kung Fury or some 80s like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nostalgia, it's like, yeah, throw this on. But
Yeah.
man, that's why I think Kung Fury is like a 40-minute thing versus an hour and a
Mm-hmm.
half, because it's like, man,
Mm.
it gets
Doesn't
old.
work. It
Yeah,
doesn't work. It just gets old.
it
It just kind
does.
of like, it gets old, and again, you kind of like, for me, I really realize, you just kind of think about it. For instance, like in this movie, I think I wrote some like quotes from this movie. Um,
I'm sure they're profound.
um,
Well, yeah,
oh man, I
I
don't
thought
think
they were really profound.
like there was just lines in this movie, like when he says to the guy, like, oh, like I'm justice. Like there's just like lines like
Oh
that.
god.
I didn't write them. Let me see. I'm gonna go on like there's a line in which he says, "You're the disease, I'm the cure."
Yeah,
The context being like criminals, you
that
know.
was like his first line, I think, or one of his
I
first.
think so. Yeah, that's like his first line.
He's like, I'm the disease. You're the disease, and I'm the cure.
Like, look, listen to this. Like, this is dialogue from the movie. The supermarket killer says to him, "Get a bomb here. I'll kill her. I'll show this. I'll blow this whole place up." And then Cobra, or his name is Marion Cobretti. He says, "Go ahead. I don't." He goes, "Go ahead. I don't shop here." All right, just relax, amigo. You want to talk? We'll talk. I'm a sucker for a good conversation. It's like, dude, what is this dialogue, man?
Oh god.
And then the guy just says like, "Oh, I'm not gonna talk to you." And he says, as he goes like, "Bring." The guy tells Cobra to bring the television cameras, and Cobra says, "Can't do that." The guy says, "Why?" Cobra says, "I don't deal with psychos. I put him away." It's like, dude, like, what is this, man?
Ridiculous. And here's the thing too, like, so this movie, you could kind of compare this movie to. Have you seen Commando?
No, no, I haven't.
Okay, so Commando is, again, it's an Arnold film. It's an '80s like dripping in testosterone like male kind of fantasy thing. But Commando, I gave Commando like a 6 out of 10, like 3 stars,
Mm,
and the reason Commando works well for me is because the plot of that movie is, I can't remember exactly why. I think it's like maybe his former corrupt like rogue members of his former military unit or something
mm,
like that, or just some terrorists. I don't know. They want something with him, I think, but they kidnap his daughter. And
mm.
so the movie is like this rescue mission, this one man rescue mission of just gunning these dudes down to get his daughter back. And just that right there is like, okay, there's stakes. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like there's stakes to this. I can get behind that.
But this movie there's no reason for Cobra to be doing what he's doing.
No, yeah, I was
This
watching this.
is.
Yeah, and you know what? I had an interesting thought because I watched this movie and I was like, this is a little bit like Terminator, right? With John
Mm,
Connor and Sarah, or not John Connor, Sarah Connor and whoever the guy is in the
mm,
movie running away. And I was like, why does Terminator work and this one doesn't? And I started to think about that. I started to sort it out. And and I was thinking about it and I'm like, I think a big part of it is because Sarah Connor is the main character and we're put in her shoes. We get to know her a little
mm,
bit and we
mm,
really feel her fear as she's pursued by like this terrifying cyborg thing, which again,
mm,
the Terminator is scary. These cult dudes were not,
mm,
um, for a bunch of reasons that I won't really get into, but that was another level. Um, and then there was also sort of this mystery too of like what's actually going on with this sci-fi plot, this time travel stuff that
mm,
worked. So but I think that was like that what I originally said about Sarah Connor, I think that's the biggest reason that movie worked,
Mm.
versus this one just really not working.
Because Cobra
And there's no,
doesn't have like he doesn't have a drive. He just is like he's just a guy, and for
yeah,
some reason he's the main character of the movie, although he has no motivation. You know.
yeah. Well, this movie committed like one of the biggest sins where it's like you could take Cobra out of this movie and the plot would sort of still happen, just maybe with like
Mm,
different police officers.
mm, mm.
Um yeah, just man, and I was like, okay, we're going to find a little bit out about Cobra, and we didn't find anything out about him. Like whatsoever, like about his past
No,
or who he is or
no.
anything.
There was just one scene in which he goes into his apartment, he sits down, opens a pizza box, and cuts the pizza with scissors.
Yeah.
That's like a one pizza slice that he had in there with scissors into like a smaller triangle, and then eats that. And I was just like, what? I was like, Sylvester Stallone, what are you showing me here? It's like, is this your life? Like, this is just what you do? Do you just eat pizza and cut it with scissors? Like, uh, I was befuddled. I
Yeah,
was,
that was weird. Is that supposed to be badass using
I
scissors
don't
too?
know.
I don't.
I couldn't place it. You know, there's so many random like things, so many random things. Like when he's like at that bar and like the female character puts like a bunch of ketchup on her fries. I was like, what is that about? Like,
Yeah.
what's the point? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to like replace any actual characterization or like development by just giving the characters like weird quirks? Like, oh, Cobra cuts his pizza with scissors into smaller triangles. Like, oh, his romantic interest showers fries with ketchup. It's like, okay, all right, you know. And the funkiest thing to me out of all of those things, out of all of the crazy things that we could talk about this movie, you know, which would be here forever, the biggest thing that bothered me, that just bothered me watching this movie, was that that female cop was working with the Night Slasher. That's like the name of the villain, the Night Slasher.
Yeah.
The ugliest dude in the world. Like
Yeah.
like they they make like a portrait of him, like the girl like tells like a person and they draw his
Oh yeah,
face
yeah. I
and it
remember
looks
that.
identical to him.
They're like, but it looks like some crappy like child's drawing. They're like,
But it
is
looks
this?
just like him. Yeah.
Yeah, in a
Like,
way, but also it doesn't look like a human. So I didn't know if that
no,
was supposed
no.
to be funny, but like,
Dude, I don't think
no,
so.
I don't think so either. Because he shows
I
her
don't
this
think
like
so.
child's like stick figure drawing, and he's like, "Is that the man?" And she's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah. But that was the funny thing because like, they drew him and she goes like, "Yeah, that's the man." And I saw that and I was like, this doesn't look like a professional drew it, one, but also it looks just like the guy.
Yeah.
It looks just like him. It's such an ugly amateur drawing that it looks just like that man. And but the biggest thing that bothered me again was that the female police officer is like working with him and she gets assigned to Cobra. So Cobra and his partner and the woman are going, with him and the woman that's trying to be killed by the cult. And it's never even explained why that woman's needed. She never serves any purpose. She just like shares a room with his police buddy. It's like never explained why that's actually a thing that needs to happen. It just needs to happen for the plot. But also, there's all this camera stuff going on, suggesting that Cobra is like onto her.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about this? It's like clear as
Yeah.
day. Like, oh, Cobra is onto her. He sees that she's talking on the phone
Yeah.
multiple times. He like even spats her like in the middle of saying like, "Oh yeah, they're sleeping. They're in the rooms." Yet nothing happens from that. Nothing happens from that. Like nothing.
Yeah. She just doesn't she just disappear like the?
No, like I expected Cobra to like know that she's doing that and just trying to like fool her into like a trap and getting the cult into a trap.
Yeah.
But they just jump Cobra.
Right.
Like when they arrive in the morning, Cobra's like, oh my God, they're here. Get in the car, let's go.
He's an
Like
idiot.
he's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. His friend gets like shot. I think his friend like I don't think we see his friend again at the end of the movie. Like I think his friend died. His friend died because of Cobra.
Oh yeah,
Because
what the hell
Cobra,
happened to him? And Cobra doesn't even care. He's just like,
he got
well,
shot.
yeah.
His friend got shot. They shot him, and then he like fell, and that was it. Um, and Cobra doesn't give a fuck. But again, I was like, oh, Cobra's a smart man. He knows that something's up. He doesn't know anything. Literally anything. It's like Sylvester Stallone forgot that he wrote scenes. That he wrote two scenes back to back
Yeah.
in which Cobra is like highly suspicious. But then the next morning, he's like, "Oh my God, they're here! We have to go!" And it's
I think
like Cobra,
Sylvester.
what is?
I think Sylvester might be an idiot.
It's like Cobra, what's going on, Cobra? I thought you were on to this, but then
Cobra.
that woman cop, right? She shows up again, because she is like firing at his romantic interest as she's going up the stairs. And Cobra shows up. Now, all through this movie, Cobra has been relentlessly killing people.
Yeah.
Relentlessly. Just like without shame, without a second thought, just a psychopathic killing machine.
Yeah.
And to add to that, this is a fact. This is one of the trivia about this movie. The body count for this movie, the body count for this movie is 52. Now, Jake,
Wow.
give me a guess. Give me a guess as to how many of those people Cobra was the person that killed. And the number is not 52, but give me your best guess.
Like 45?
41.
41?
Out of those 52 kills, Cobra killed 41 of them. The guy is a relentless, remorseless psychopath, just killing people without a second thought. And
And the thing is too, if I can just piggyback on that for a second, like, because you might say like, well, John Wick kills all these people. It's like, yeah, because he's mad about something. Like he wants revenge.
Cobra has no motivation.
Yeah, it's like, what's this? The question that it begs is, what's this guy's problem? Is this guy a psycho?
He's a psycho, man. But then the other thing is that, again, this is the scenario, right? Cobra has had no motivation to kill anybody, but yet he's killed 41 people throughout this movie, right? At this point in the movie, actually, he's killed 39 people. This woman's shooting at the woman that Cobra has like falling in love with, quote unquote, because Cobra is an emotionless robot. So who knows if he actually feels anything. But she's shooting at the woman, and Cobra, the man who has killed 39 people without blinking, pushes her away. Right?
Yeah.
She's shooting at the woman, and Cobra pushes her away. And then Cobra just keeps on going and gets to the main villain, who just keeps calling him a pig for some reason. I mean, I know why, but it's like it just comes across like so like forced.
Yeah.
Cobra is like facing off with that guy, and that guy is like, "You're not gonna shoot me, pig, because you're a pig, and you gotta take me to which was interesting that he said that, because I was like, oh, it's true what he's saying. He said, well, you're gonna take me to court, and court, they have to judge me, and I'm just gonna plead insanity and whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's interesting that guy's saying that. And Cobra is like, Cobra says like one of his cheesy Cobra lines. I think I wrote it.
Yeah, I don't remember what he says.
I didn't write this one either, I think.
He's probably like,
Lieutenant Cobra.
I'm the executioner.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's like, no, he goes like, that's where the law ends and I start, And he goes like, I'm the executioner, and then he goes, sucker. And so he's gonna shoot him. And I'm like, please.
Oh.
At this point in the movie, I'm like, please, Cobra, shoot the man.
And yeah.
Yeah, like get your 40th kill. get your 40th kill into the movie. Roll the credits. Let's get it done, Cobra. Kill the man.
Yeah.
Um, Call of Duty shoot a man. Cobra shoot the man and end the movie. And the female cop that he pushed to the side that was trying to kill his girlfriend comes back and jumps him from behind. She goes like, "Wah!" Jumps him from behind, and then this. It becomes like this one-on-one brawl
Right.
between Cobra and the other guy. And Cobra kills the woman and then impales the guy. And that's it.
On like a meat hook.
Yeah, like a meat hook. And I was like, why did you do this, Sylvester Stallone? Why was this necessary? It's like it's just like so shitty when when a character in a movie like this with a robot like Cobra, like when he pushed that female cop to the side, I was like, she's gonna stop him from doing something,
Yeah.
But it's just like it's just shitty when a movie that is like that is this movie that is Cobra doesn't even follow its own rules. It's like Cobra is a psychopath. He kills everybody, But it's like clearly he didn't kill that specific person. That's the person that's gonna make him go into a brawl with this bad guy, and he's gonna kill her anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
size. All I have left to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, okay. Let me ask you a really tough question. What were some things you liked about the movie? You're like, fuck you, Jake. God damn it.
Bro, the woman shows up and jumps Cobra because for the very first time, this entire movie, he didn't shoot to kill for the very first time. This is like my notes. Just to set up a jump that prolongs a tired movie and a tedious ending. Then I wrote, Cobra defeats him, punches the doofus police officer, takes one of the bikes and leaves with the woman.
I didn't like that too. I thought it was like a nice little moment when he shook the guy's hand, and then when he punched him, I was like, "You're an asshole."
He punched him, and then the last words in the credits, the very last thing at the end of the credits is just the word in huge caps, Cobra.
God. The guy he punched.
There's something.
What did you say?
There's something that I liked about the movie.
What? When it was over?
It was the poster. I think the poster in Letterboxd is like badass.
Yeah.
Have you seen the poster in Letterboxd?
Yeah, with the all red background.
Yeah, with the glasses. I was like, oh, it's badass. The poster is badass. The poster makes you think this is like actually like a really badass, like cool movie.
I fell for it. I mean, hey. Yeah, it's got a cult following, and I just don't. I mean, it's like, why? I don't even think there's not even anything in it that's like that's really that iconic, to be honest. Besides the cheesy 80s like stock archetype like action guy, living action figure robot person. But like that, it's like whatever. That doesn't seem like enough to start like a cult following. The villains are lame. They're stupid. They have no. I mean, they don't even meet the bare minimum requirements of being a character. Like, not even the villains, just the main villain. Let's just say he doesn't even meet the bare minimum requirements. Who's the New World? What do they want? I mean, what's their
no? We don't know. We don't know anything.
I wanted to find that out though. I was curious. I was like, what's this cult about? We don't know.
That guy just like. And trying to kill that woman is just like an obsession because even they don't have there's no reason for trying to kill that woman.
It's like she just saw one of it's like she just saw one of them with their mask off or something, and then it's like, oh, we have to get what? So stupid.
But the funny thing is that she had already identified them because she already provided like the drawing of him that looks just like him. So it's like
it's like when Deadpool has that like shitty stick figure drawing of Francis. He's like, "Have you seen this man?" what's iconic about this movie at all? I mean, there's no iconic villain. There's no like the.
Even,
I mean,
but not even like the chase sequence. The chase sequence sucks,
yeah,
and it makes no sense that it's happening in like Cobra's car because Cobra's car sucks. It should nowhere be the car that he's using for a chase. That makes the chase like feel stupid. That he's using that old Mercury that he has. Like, dude, get that car out of here, man. Like, what are you doing? So I don't know. I have no idea.
yeah, so weird.
I have no idea. I have no clues as to why people appreciate this. Apparently, there's like a long version of this movie with like 40 extra minutes. I don't know how that makes anything better. Apparently, it just adds like more gore and violence. So maybe the people who are like the cult following for this movie are just people who are really into that.
Yeah.
To watching Sylvester shoot people and make their bodies explode.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Right.
What do you give Cobra, sir?
I give Cobra a 2.
Okay. I would say,
Like a plain 2. No strong 2, no light 2, just 2.
Yeah, I would say. I want to say I'll give Cobra a 3 out of 10.
Okay.
I wasn't in total pain, watching like an 80s action hero shoot up. The action scenes were shootout scenes and stuff. They were decently filmed. They were all right. They weren't like terrible. There was some skill in there. It's like I'm highlighting the bare minimum shit.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like, well,
the
the director, the cinematographer could hold a camera.
well, funnily enough, and we're gonna get this into the trivia in a minute. Mr. Stallone was a douche. He didn't speak like he was taking this movie like really seriously. Like he did not speak with like any of the supporting cast. He did not speak with them. Like he just didn't speak with them.
This is like his method acting.
Yeah, he was like method acting in this movie. And the fact that he was taking it so seriously just makes me feel like really negatively about the movie. He was being like a big douche about it. It's like, dude, chill out. Like I'm just gonna get into the trivia. Brian Thompson, his name of the night slasher, didn't invite him to the premiere of the film. By the way, they didn't invite him. Apparently, he had to buy his own ticket to go see the movie.
Oh my god!
And to this day, it mystifies that actor because nobody ever told him why they didn't invite him, why he wasn't part of anything.
What? That's insane.
Yeah, and this is an interesting point. This is an interesting part because you mentioned the cinematographer. At one point during filming, Sylvester Stallone complained to the cinematographer that they were falling behind and said he and his crew needed to work harder. Wait, the cinematographer, responded by saying that Sylvester Stallone gets his hands off Bridget Nielsen, like the main girl. If he gets his hands off of Bridget Nielsen's ass and stops showing off to his bodyguards, maybe they wouldn't have the problems that they have this time.
Whoa!
Something which shocked Sylvester Stallone.
Whoa!
That somebody would talk to him that way.
Hey, someone put him in his place.
Because of that, apparently he toned down his ego through the filming of the movie, and they actually were able to finish it.
Wow.
Now, in an interview, Wade, the cinematographer, said that Stallone had a great sense of humor despite his huge ego, and he also confirmed the rumor that Stallone was the true director of the film. He called director George P. Cosmatos a good producer, but a really bad director.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So
This movie influenced Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive, especially like the Ryan Gosling having a toothpick in his mouth the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like I said to you, none of the supporting cast of the film or crew were allowed to talk to Sylvester Stallone during filming.
What an asshole.
What an asshole, man. Him and like Arnold Schwarzenegger, they just had this like huge rivalry of egos, you know. So much so there was like a movie that Sylvester Stallone did that he only did that movie because he thought that it had been offered to, or that he thought that Arnold was like really interested in the movie, and so he took the role and made the movie because he thought he was taking the role away from Arnold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about an
The thing,
ego.
the interesting thing is that the movie that he ended up making, thinking he was taking it away from Arnold, was a movie that Arnold had set him up into thinking he wanted it to, that Stallone would do it because the movie was horrendous and it was like a box office bomb.
Wow.
Let's see if I can find the name of the movie. Jeez, this guy's made so many movies.
So Arnold was basically just playing like 3D chess with him.
Yeah, basically,
That's that's insane.
basically, they have like a studied like rivalry.
Yeah, and then they
Here
were
it
in
is.
that Escape Plan movie together,
But here
which
it
was
is.
not good.
How Arnold Schwarzenegger tricked Stallone into making his worst movie. Um, oh jeez, man. I'm gonna we're going. This is like going a little bit off podcast. No, I'm not gonna share my screen. But what's the name of that movie? The name of the movie is called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
That's weird.
You can look it up if you want to.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. It's a 1992 movie. It
So
has a 14% Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.3 on IMDb.
that looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
So Arnold tricked him into making that movie.
That's
Respect to Arnold. If Arnold was really playing 3D chess like that with him, respect to him.
that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, Arnold's a true hero, especially the way he took that drop kick. You remember
That
that?
makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, anyone who's listening to this, go look up Arnold Schwarzenegger drop kick, and that should it should come up. It should come up. Just go look it up. I won't even describe what it is. It's better if you don't even know.
But that's all I got. I don't got any like letterbox reviews for it. Funnily enough, like the top reviews for this movie are all positive. People being like, "This movie's great." And it's like, what fucking movie are you watching? Um, yeah, that's all I have for Cobra.
Yeah, same here. Uh, well, enough about Cobra. What do you have for us for next week, sir?
Now, for next week, I have for us a movie that has been on my mind. That's why I kind of want to put it forward, and I think you might also like appreciate having the opportunity just to be like, oh, I guess I have to watch this. It is the Kid Cudi movie, Intergalactic.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my pick for next week. The
I'm
animated,
I'm behind
I
on
think,
that.
hour and a half long Kid Cudi album companion piece, Intergalactic.
Hey, I'm long overdue on watching this.
Same here.
I know my sister really enjoyed it, so
Yeah, yeah,
my sister and I, my sister, as we are massive Kid Cudi fans. I like to
yeah.
think I got my sister into Kid Cudi, but I'm not sure.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not sure though. But
Yeah.
yeah, sounds good, man.
All right, everybody. That's the podcast that everybody's been waiting for. Three
Yep.
weeks in the making. 3 weeks with Cobra existing in my head.
Yeah, I know. I
Now I
this
can put him to rest.
Yeah, this movie like over ripened, I would say, in my head,
Mm,
but
mm,
it like it just kind of faded a little bit. Like,
mm.
dude, when we started this, it was so unmemorable. Like, I just to keep shitting, just to squeeze out, pinch one last loaf out onto this movie's face. Like, I I forgot that we were even talking about this movie when we started this podcast.
Yeah, right,
Like I
right.
was like, podcast time.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh yeah, we're talking about that movie.
Talking about Cobra. Yeah, yeah.
uh, anyway.
Right.
Well, everybody, that's it. Intergalactic next week, and that's all there is, folks. There isn't any more.
Everybody, next time on Film Tangents, we're out.
We out.